Chapter 949. Luo Qingshun was stunned. Before she could react, her left hand was firmly grasped by Murong Ming. His entire body emitted waves of cold air, and the haze in his eyes seemed to be able to freeze everyone around him in the next second. There was a strange terror in the coldness. A pair of azure-blue eyes were half squinted as he looked dangerously at Murong Hanxian. "You? Who are you?" Murong Hanxian forcefully shook his head and shouted in a panic. "Come, let me go, Ka." Murong Ming's eyes narrowed. A dim blue light followed his palm and ruthlessly knocked down Murong Hanxuan's neck. In the next second, Murong Hanxian fell to the ground. The entire process happened in a short 3 seconds. It was so fast that Luo Qingshun didn't even have time to react before she was pulled out of the imperial study by Murong Ming. The cold wind at night was slightly chilly. The sky was still dark and gloomy with a strange red light. She saw that his gaze was somewhat unnatural. Pursing her lips, she lightly smiled and said, "Why are you here? Are you worried about me?" Actually, in the past, when she asked such teasing and provocative questions, she was always confident that the other party would fall under her pleated skirt and their favorability would slowly increase. But this time, she wasn't so sure. Her heart thumped nonstop. With a faint smile on her lips, she looked at Murong Ming with clear eyes. Wait for an answer." For a long time, there was no prompt. He slowly let go of her hand, and his tone returned to its usual indolence. "Sure, put something in the sandalwood, so I came to take a look." "What are you looking at?" At this moment, she suddenly felt that the so-called thing in the sandalwood wasn't important at all. What was important was why he came here. Was he here to find her and worry about her? Or was he here to see the enemy's embarrassing appearance? Murong Ming was slightly stunned. He didn't expect her to ask such a question. After a long time, when the cold wind blew and the petals of the hibiscus fell on her hair, she finally heard his answer. "You." She suddenly felt that in this strange situation, this kind of conversation seemed a bit quiet. She couldn't understand what the man in front of her was thinking. She couldn't understand what kind of heart was under his indolent appearance. Drip, drip, 2 clear drops of water broke the silence. The glass crystal in Murong Ming's arms emitted a faint blue light. 4 drops of sincere tears converged and formed. It seems that the story of the Taoist nun and the eminent monk, the princess and the general has come to an end. Luo Qingshun looked at the crystal with a touch of coldness in her eyes. He always felt that this was the starting point, and the end point would also be this. Yes, only Lu is left. Murong Ming nodded. His hand that was holding the crystal trembled slightly. Luo Qingshun blinked. Is it the story of the prostitute and the male ghost? To be honest, in these 5 stories, she was most interested in Lu's story because she always felt that the answer would be very surprising. Why would a woman in a brothel be cursed by a male ghost when she killed his fiancée who abandoned him? She probably already had an answer in her heart. Yes. His eyebrows moved slightly and the corners of his mouth curved into a faint smile. "So when do you plan on giving me your tears?" Luo Qingshun shrugged and rolled her eyes at him. "If you really need it, I'll squeeze out a few drops for you, okay?" Chapter 950. There is. In the next second, Luo Qingshun slightly blinked and almost blurted out, "Murong Hanxian." Of course, this answer was her answer for the original owner. "Oh," he replied coldly, his azure eyes seeming a little dim. In an instant, Luo Qingshun chuckled and said, "But that was a long, long time ago. What about now?" His eyebrows slightly moved, his tone carrying a questioning tone. At this moment, his heart really wanted to know the answer. "You?" She looked at his eyes, from a chaotic dim to a faint liguang. She then continued, "Guess." Murong Ming almost didn't hesitate to raise his right hand, lightly flicking between her eyebrows, and said, "Guess my ass." As soon as his voice fell, he walked towards the side room without looking back. She only felt a stuffy feeling in her heart. There was a kind of unhappiness that spontaneously arose. She couldn't explain it clearly. She couldn't understand it. It was as if she had always wanted to hear an answer in her heart. But at the most crucial moment, there was a big reversal. When Luo Qingshun heard this, she muttered while following him, "You're a ghost yourself, you don't even need to guess. If you guess correctly, you'll know the answer." After returning to the side room, Luo Qingshun only felt that the room was full of people. No, it was a room full of ghosts. Murong Ming placed the glass crystal with a blue light in the middle of the table. All the ghosts watched as a drop of tear fell down. Ning happily said, "Young Master Luer found the male ghost." "Found it? It might not be a ghost." Murong Ming's eyebrows slightly moved. "It has already been 100 years. Maybe he is already reincarnated." "No, he's still a ghost." A ghost broke through the window, with a light tear in the corner of her eyes. Luer rubbed her eyes and said, "Now, we only need Sister Jasmine and the girl's tears. Then we can open the life and death arena." "Life and death arena?" Luo Qingshun frowned and said, "There really is such a place." Previously, Murong Ming had always said, 100 years in the Azura arena, one leap from the life and death arena. She always thought that he was just lamenting his loneliness for hundreds of years, but she didn't know. Of course. Lu pursed her lips and said, "As long as we open the life and death ring, young master will be able to release the seal that he suffered during his battle with the 10,000-year blood corpse. Now the seal of the blood corpse is about to be broken, and young master." 10,000-year-old blood corpse. She raised her eyes. She looked at him with some confusion and said, "You really have a lot of secrets." At the same time, in the Wu People's Resort, Shaman Zhu stood on the astrology platform and looked at the dark red sky with a frown. "Wu people, if that person really came out of the Imperial Mausoleum, then only it can deal with him." An elder at the side stroked his white hair and said, "Otherwise, our Wu people. Do you think we can control it?" Wu Zhu stared at the sky and bitterly smiled. "Although that seal was set by us Wu people, it is already very weak. It can break the seal at any time, but after all, we are the ones who saved it." The elder stood at the side and said unyieldingly, "But we are also the ones who imprisoned it for nearly 10,000 years." Wu Zhu sighed and said, "Fine, fine. It's fate." She slowly turned around and walked towards the inner room. If it wasn't for her daughter forcing herself to do something against the heavens, at least Muonghua, at least the Wu people would have hundreds or even thousands of years of peace. Chapter 9:51. Since that day, which Lord had been in seclusion and hadn't appeared, Murong Hanxian thought that he had been bewitched by the love powder and fell asleep for several days. As for Su Luoluo, she had been very active recently. Because Jasmine had been particularly close to someone recently, Murong Hanxuan's personal bodyguard, Chen Yi. When Luo Qingshan found out about this, she had already led Chen Yi to the room they were staying in. At this time, Murong Ming's expression wasn't very good, because the so-called 10,000-year-old blood corpse that could destroy this world was about to break through the seal. The originally dark red sky had gradually turned into a bright red. The appearance of an uninvited guest at this time was definitely not a good sign. "His name is Chun Yi. He's a super interesting person." Jasmine lowered her head slightly. Although she still had the appearance of a pure, noble lady, her white cheeks had long been dyed with a touch of crimson. The ghost sisters didn't say anything. Murong Ming only looked at her indifferently. Finally, Jasmine's gaze fell on Luo Qingshan. "Miss, didn't you say that if there was a chance I would come out of the Imperial Mausoleum this time? Do I have to properly enjoy this so-called love?" "That's right, but he..." Luo Qingshan looked Chinny up and down. He had a simple and honest smile, but his eyes were filled with complicated emotions. It was as if he was deliberately hiding it, unable to explain it clearly. "He's very good." Jasmine bit her lips, her eyes carrying the clarity of a young girl. It was as if she wasn't a female ghost that had died for 600 years, but a young girl that had just fallen in love. "Does he know that there are far more than just the four of us in this room?" Luo Qingshan suddenly felt that she had said something wrong, and added, "Two people, there's only the two of us here. Does he know? But in fact, there are a total of 9 rooms in this room. He knows everything." Jasmine looked at Luo Qingshan with some grievance. "Miss, Do you also think that humans and ghosts are different? I shouldn't have such thoughts about a person. Deep in the palace's inner courtyard, red brick balcony, she was possessed by a pure noble, so it was inevitable that she would feel a little lonely. Chun-Yi often appeared in front of her and gave her some trinkets. She felt that her life had become very fulfilling. Over time, they began to communicate with each other. As time passed, he learned of her identity. After a long time, Luo Qingxuan sighed softly and said, "I've never cared about people and ghosts walking different paths. On the contrary, I feel that true love is not something that can be clearly defined by such boundaries." When she said this, Murong Ming's gaze was fixed on her. There was a touch of laziness, but it was a touch of Liguang. "But," she continued, "you have to be responsible for the choices you make." When Jasmine heard this, her eyelashes trembled slightly. He turned to look at Chun-Yi and said, "I believe in my choice. I won't regret it until I die." Luo Qingxuan seemed to be able to see the future for Jasmine, but at this moment, she had no way to stop her. To her, the current Chun-Yi was the best, and no one could replace him. "Good." Murong Ming raised his cold eyes and looked at Chun-Yi indifferently. "There's a place in the palace called Luo Sha Hall. I heard that it's a forbidden place in the palace, and it's sealed by the Wu people." "Yes." Chani nodded and said, "No one has been able to get close to that place for 100 years. Chapter 952. "Yes, Gongzi." Jasmine nodded, but she was still a little nervous. She didn't know if they approved of Chun-Yi or not. "I'll go with you." Chun-Yi's eyes slightly darkened as he looked at her and said, "That place is very evil. I won't be at ease if you go alone." After Jasmine and Chun-Yi left, Luo Qingxuan slightly knitted her brows, and there was a slight worry in her eyes. The 5 cute female ghosts beside her started to chatter like a crowd of onlookers. "Why would Sister Jasmine like such a person? I always feel that he's too ordinary. There's no such thing as ordinary in the world of love. I think it's fine as long as Sister Jasmine is happy." "That's right. I also like a male ghost. Now we're all ghosts, isn't that good?" "Lu, don't you plan to reincarnate with your male ghost? If a malicious ghost wants to reincarnate, it shouldn't be a human." Luo Qingxuan turned her eyes and looked at Murong Ming, who was deep in thought. She chuckled and asked, "Is it because you want to test Chun-Yi that you let Jasmine guard Luo Sha Hall?" Murong Ming narrowed his eyes and slowly picked up the glass crystal. He looked at her and said, "Do you think I'm so kind?" "You." Luo Qingxuan knitted her brows and said, "You're doing this for Jasmine's tears." "Huh." The next second, he smiled lazily as if he didn't care and stuffed the glass crystal in her hand and said, "I'll give it to you for safekeeping." The glass crystal emitted a faint blue light, and when she held it in her hand, she could feel a touch of coldness. "Why are you giving it to me for safekeeping?" She looked at his slightly knitted brows and asked tentatively, "Are you going to open the life and death arena before the seal of Luo Sha Hall is broken?" "Yes." He nodded and admitted without hesitation. The life and death arena was definitely not as simple as opening his ability. It was a tribulation for him. But she gently raised the glass crystal in her hand and murmured, "Sincere tears. Can it really be gathered? Even if it can gather them, it's too late." Murong Ming glanced outside the window. The fiery red sky was tearing apart inch by inch. "What do you mean? It's going to break the seal." At the same time, Jasmine and Chun-Yi had just arrived at Luo Sha Palace through an extremely long passageway. To be precise, this so-called Luo Sha Palace was not even in the Imperial Palace. It was built by a certain Murong clan emperor a few hundred years ago to make it easier for him to survey the situation of Luo Sha Palace. Starting from the North Gate, a set of passageways leading to the airport was built, leading to the Luo Sha Palace. At this moment, the Rakshasa Palace's seal was like glass shards, falling bit by bit. The sky above the main hall was torn apart piece by piece, revealing an eerie and terrifying atmosphere. "Chun-Yi, you go back first." Jasmine frowned. Her right hand glowed with a dim light as she said, "This barrier will be broken soon. The thing inside isn't something you can deal with." Chun-Yi didn't respond for a long time. When she turned around, Chun-Yi was staring at her in a daze. There was still an unfathomable emotion in his eyes. "What's wrong?" Jasmine blinked slightly. She didn't know why, but at this moment, she felt a little flustered in her heart. An inexplicable sense of panic. Chun-Yi slowly walked towards her. He raised his right hand and gently touched her cheek. The corners of his mouth curled up as he said, "I have never seen Chun-Er so worried about me." Chapter 953. You are Chun-Er, my favorite childhood sweetheart, Song Chun. The next second, he suddenly grabbed her clothes and pushed her into the broken barrier. "Why do you want to occupy her body? Give Chun-Er back to me." At this moment, Jasmine's mind seemed to have been hollowed out. It was completely blank. Her originally clear eyes were replaced by blood veins. The barrier behind her flickered, revealing a chill. It seemed that she had brought him to be examined by the most important person in her life, and in the next second, she had become the world's biggest joke. Ouch! Hiss! The Luo Sha palace behind her trembled violently. The entire barrier was completely destroyed. The air was filled with a bloody aura. "You lied to me, right?" Jasmine bit her lip, completely ignoring the danger behind her. Tears unconsciously swirled in her eyes. The next second, a drop of blood flowed down. Chun-Yi was stunned. At this moment, he felt a slight pain in his heart. He had never felt this kind of feeling before. Song Chun was his childhood sweetheart. Since childhood, he had been relatively introverted. Aside from Song Chun, he had never had a female playmate. He had always thought that when Song Chun was 16 years old, he would be able to propose marriage to her. But he had never thought that she would actually fall in love with the current emperor, Murong Hanxian, at a palace banquet. The next year, she married into the palace as she wished, becoming Miss Chun. Murong Hanxian didn't treat her badly. It was probably because of her sweet appearance and gentle temperament. Not long after, she became Noble Lady Chun, gradually having nothing to do with him, her childhood sweetheart older brother. But he felt unreconciled. Then, relying on his martial arts skills, he entered the palace. The road was bumpy, but fortunately, the heavens didn't let him down, and he finally became Murong Hanxuan's personal bodyguard. It was also because of this that he felt Song Chun's happiness in the palace. Even if she was lonely sometimes, she would gladly endure it. But at this moment, when he saw the injured face of the woman in front of him, the image in his mind was actually not of Song Chun, but because of the appearance of the cute female ghost. He slightly nodded, wanting to explain something, but felt as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat, unable to say anything. At this moment, a red light flickered not far away, quickly approaching the retreating Jasmine. Chun-Yi only felt panic in his heart. He shouted in a hoarse voice, "Don't retreat." Jasmine stared blankly for a moment and furrowed her brows. Behind her, an enormous dark purple blood corpse attacked her. Its entire body was filled with the stench of blood, and it was as big as 10 people. It had a reddish-purple body, a blood-red head, and all of its skin was festering. Each hand had 10 fingers, and the fingertips were extremely long and sharp. But the most terrifying thing wasn't his appearance, but his eyes that were filled with dark red blood. They were so red that they seemed to be overflowing with blood, and they emitted a bone-piercing chill that made people's hearts tremble. In an instant, a thick and cold voice came from the air, daring to fight the heavens, daring to fight the earth, slaughtering the common people without regard for their own lives. Reverse the universe, throw yin and yang into disorder, and reforge the cycle of reincarnation. And now, there's no one who can trap me anymore. He roared angrily, as if he planned to use these words to destroy this world. Jasmine was startled, and a dim light appeared on her right hand. He shouted at Chun, "Leave quickly. Don't let me see you again." As soon as she finished speaking, she attacked the 10,000-year-old blood corpse, wanting to give Chun more time to escape. Chapter 954. His world suddenly became a little confused. His mind was in chaos. He didn't know what to do. At this time, his rationality told him to run quickly. This kind of 10,000-year-old demon was definitely not something he could deal with. The female ghost in front of him had possessed Chun'er's body. Even if she died, she would only be apologizing to Chun, as she didn't deserve any sympathy. But deep in his heart, his sensibility called out to him. Do you really see your own heart clearly? Although Jasmine was a 600-year-old female ghost, facing a 10,000-year-old blood corpse, she was almost no match for it. The blood corpse in front of him constantly flowed out of its head like a waterfall. Its mouth, eyes, and ears were covered with thick, bright red liquid. Small fry, today I'll use your soul as this corpse's appetizer. A strong red light attacked Jasmine's direction. She used all her strength to roll, but was still knocked to the ground. PFFF, she spat out a mouthful of sticky blood from her mouth. Jasmine, at this moment, Chinny almost didn't think and rushed over, wanting to hug Jasmine, but he felt a chill on his back. Careful. Jasmine turned sideways, separating her soul from her body. At this moment, her first thought was to protect Chin-Yi. Her second thought was to protect this body. If her soul was scattered, at least that woman could still accompany him. That way it would seem, the story would be quite complete. Ah! She looked up to the sky and roared, using all her 600 years of cultivation to spread out an invisible protective barrier, protecting Chun-Yi and Song-Chun's body under the barrier. The next second, bang, a powerful force directly struck her soul, and the enchantment was instantly shattered. And at this moment, her soul also scattered. White fragments floated in the air. There was also a faint wisp of smoke. No! Chun-Yi screamed heartbreakingly, his hands constantly grabbing those white fragments. But as soon as he touched a fragment, it turned into a drop of sparkling tear, dripping into his palm. When Murong Ming and Luo Qingchen arrived, the glass crystal in Luo Qingchen's hand glowed with a faint blue light, a drop of sparkling water dripping down. Jasmine, her fingertips trembled slightly, and her voice was somewhat blurred. Murong Ming, who was standing beside her, frowned. His cold eyes seemed to freeze people alive. In less than a few seconds, the white fragments gradually dissipated, leaving behind only a very soft sentence. Chin-Yi, I don't hate you, but if there's a next life, please don't meet me. Jasmine, Jasmine, he softly replied. Then, he suddenly knelt on the ground as tears flowed down from the corners of his eyes. It was his fault. Everything was his fault. He didn't see his own heart clearly and didn't understand that his feelings for Song-Chun were nothing more than friendship. And the way he treated Jasmine was, at this time, the 10,000-year-old blood corpse became particularly manic, as if it had seen an old acquaintance. Its body kept shrinking and finally turned into the appearance of a human. His face was still festering. Although he only had 2 hands and 2 legs, the middle part of his body was torn apart. Covered in dark red blood, Xiaoqin walked step by step towards Murong Ming. A strange voice slowly rang out. In this world, only you are worthy of fighting with me. Unfortunately, you did not open the life and death platform. Chapter 955. You're still as arrogant as you were 700 years ago. The 10,000-year-old blood corpse looked at him deeply and said with a strange smile, Tomorrow at midnight, this corpse will wait for you at the life and death arena. If you don't want to open it, I'll open it for you. He had to personally see him lose everything, just like he did in the past. As soon as his voice fell, blood flowers fell from the sky, filling the air with a strong smell of blood. After a long time, Murong Ming coldly looked at Chun-Yi, who was still kneeling on the ground, and said, What you owe her is not as simple as this life. Luo Qingchen didn't know why Murong Ming said such a sentence. She only knew that the moment he said that, he pulled her out of Luo Sha Palace without looking back. Can you tell me, other than sealing your ability, what other use does the life and death arena have? She shook off his hand and held the glass crystal in her hand. She seriously looked at him and asked word by word, If I don't cry, you won't be able to open the life and death arena? You'll lose, right? Yes. His blue eyes faintly Li Guang said, But I won't lose. You're lying. She took a deep breath and pursed her lips. If you had the confidence to deal with him, you wouldn't have needed to go through so much trouble to let the sisters find their obsessions. Because, only by finding their obsessions can they shed tears. She took a deep breath and looked at him and continued. But you didn't think that you just wanted Jasmine to see Chun-Yi shed tears of sadness. But you didn't think that she would have feelings for Chun-Yi that could make her soul scatter. At this moment, she suddenly seemed to understand the man in front of her a little. Mysterious, with laziness, with a faint, indescribable gentleness. You're right. He slightly raised his eyes and looked at her with an indescribable emotion. The netherworld ring on her left hand was faintly glowing, and he was still looking at her attentively. Murong Ming, but I can't cry. She raised her eyes and said with trembling eyebrows, I know what tears you want. I also want to give them to you. The tears in the crystal were a kind of deep obsession. It was not something that could be achieved by just shedding a few tears. She knew that the current situation was very dangerous. The Wu people should have known that the 10,000-year zombie had broken their wizardry barrier. However, they did not step out to stop him. It was very clear that they were no match for him, and even protecting themselves was very difficult. She knew that in Murong Ming's heart, he might not have the thought of saving the world, but she could see that he wanted to protect the people around him. After a long time, he smiled lazily and pulled his hand over. If you can't cry, then don't cry. Anyway, you won't look good when you cry. His tone was very relaxed, as if he wanted to break the atmosphere. He spoke with a slightly pampering and coaxing tone. In short, I want to go to the life and death arena with you tomorrow. Luo Qingchun slightly raised her eyes and looked at him seriously. Is that okay? She knew that she was facing a 10,000-year-old blood corpse, a vengeful ghost with the deepest resentment in the world. Even a 600 years old malicious spirit like Jasmine died instantly in front of him. Facing this kind of monster, even if she had the exquisite ring, her chances of winning would not be more than 50%. It was not that she was underestimating herself, but when facing a strong enemy, calculating the odds was something that had to be done. We'll talk about it tomorrow. He looked at Luo Qingchun and suddenly felt that this serious Luo Qingchun was a bit cuter than normal people. Chapter 956. What are you looking at? Under his serious gaze, she couldn't help feeling a bit nervous. She couldn't help but tease, Don't tell me you've fallen in love with me. Although it was a provocative sentence, Murong Ming's gaze gradually darkened. His reaction wasn't as relaxed as the first time she said this. Instead, it was a bit serious. This dignified feeling made her feel both ecstatic and a little uneasy. On the way, he held her hand and walked very slowly. In a long and narrow tunnel, there was only the two of them. There was no end in front of them, and there was still no end behind them. If we can keep walking like this, it would be pretty good. A long, long time later, she vaguely remembered his bitter smile when he said this. It was a bitter smile filled with helplessness. When they returned to the room, it was completely silent. There was no noise from before. Murong Ming's brows knit together. His blue eyes were shining. He slightly closed his eyes, and his long eyelashes trembled. After a long time, he suddenly opened his eyes and said, Oh no, they were taken away. Who? Who could take them away? Luo Qingchun looked at him in disbelief and asked, Who could see them? Which lord? He narrowed his eyes and continued, how could the witch lord catch them? She knit her brows and said, Su Luo was possessed and couldn't do anything. How could it be? The Wu people's treasure, the soul-trapping orb. Murong Ming's thin lips softly said, They probably took advantage of the blood corpses breaking the defensive line and changed the surrounding atmosphere. Well, they had the chance, they took them away. Under normal circumstances, they were malicious spirits that had cultivated in the imperial tombs for hundreds of years. Even the Wu people's treasure, the soul-trapping orb, couldn't take all 5 of them in at the same time. A ghost's sense of smell was much more sensitive than a human's. If it wasn't for the 10,000-year-old blood corpses, it would have been very difficult to catch them. Why did the Wu people take them? Luo Qingchun coldly laughed and said, Since they had such a treasure, Why didn't they catch the 33 malicious spirits in the past? Instead, they came to catch them. This kind of woo people, if they don't kill them, what's the point? Seeing her angry face, he couldn't help but smile. Great minds think alike. Let's go save them. Luo Qingshun pulled out a 9-section moon whip out of thin air and held it in her hand. You. Mu Rongming glanced at the 9-section moon whip in her hand and said, "Are you really human?" It was impossible for humans to take things out of thin air. According to some unknown thing, I am also a female ghost. Luo Qingshan recalled what the system had told her at the beginning, and then said to Mu Rongming in a serious tone, "It seems to be a female ghost that has died for 30,000 years. Maybe we knew each other in our previous lives." Seeing her serious face, he raised his hand slightly and gently touched her head. "But we can't save them now." "Why?" "I know why the sorcerer tribe captured them," Yi Zichen said. Mu Rongming's eyebrows slightly moved, and there was a very faint cold light in his eyes as he said, "The Wu people are good at sacrifices. They often use things like sacrifices to suppress the souls of the dead and then seal them again." Luo Qingshan heard this, and her heart suddenly trembled. She said, "The Wu people plan to use their souls as sacrifices to the blood corpses?" She didn't think that the Wu people would use such a cruel method to survive. Chapter 9:57. At the same time, the Wu people's astrology platform. "Shaman, are we really going to sacrifice the souls of these 5 ghosts to the bloody corpse?" The elder said with some difficulty, "It will only become stronger after swallowing them. But the souls of 5 ghosts need to merge into the body of a 10,000-year-old bloody corpse." The shaman narrowed her eyes and looked at the dim life and death platform. "As long as the life and death platform is opened, we can take advantage of the time when it is merging and push it down. In this world, no matter if it was a human, a demon, or a ghost, as long as they jumped off the life and death platform, they would die without a doubt. The sorcerer tribe must not be destroyed in her hands, whether it was the 10,000-year-old blood corpse or Mu Rongming who wanted to destroy them. This time, the Wu people must kill them all before they do anything. The Wu people were weak and could not do it, but she could wait for them to kill each other and then take advantage of them." The next day, at midnight, the bridge that led to the life and death platform was called Nai. Ordinary people could not see this bridge. Only people who had the power of ghosts or gods could see it. It was midnight, but it was as bright as morning. Ordinary people could only see a bottomless abyss, but they could see a bridge paved with crystals that led to the life and death platform in the depths of the clouds. Looking down from the bridge, it was a huge azure field with a strange red light, which made people's hearts palpitate. Mu Rongming's face was not very good. When he walked on the bridge, he had turned around more than once to ask her, "Can you go back and wait for me?" He did not know why, but he felt extremely panicked. He could not help but think of a sentence that a master said to him 700 years ago. "You will encounter a tribulation, either in this life or in the next life. In this tribulation, you will lose the most important person to you. That person may be someone else, or it may be yourself." These words kept echoing in his heart for 100 years. He was trapped between the imperial mausoleum and the underworld. There was never anyone important to him. He knew very well that the tribulation that this expert was talking about was him. But now he was not so sure. "No." Luo Qingshan blinked and said, "Even if you don't believe in my ability, you have to believe in your own ability." Mu Rongming's power must be very strong, and it was beyond her imagination. The netherworld ring on her left hand explained everything. When she wore this ring, she would occasionally dream of some strange scenes. They were all from the netherworld, and the images were very realistic. It should be something that the owner of the ring had experienced. In other words, Mu Rongming had already been to the underworld. If that was the case, the fact that he could still exist in the world of the living without reincarnating only proved one thing. He was a very important figure in the underworld of this plane. Although it was just a guess, she felt that it was close to the truth. After a long time, he sighed and said, "Then follow me. Anyway, without your tears, Neither the Wu people nor the blood corpses can open the life and death ring. All of a sudden, his thoughts changed without him realizing it. At first, he only thought about how to quickly gather the 7 tiers, open the life and death platform, and then destroy it. This was because only by opening it could he obtain the sealed ability. However, if he destroyed it, his tribulation would never happen. But now, he really didn't want her tears. Chapter 958. 10 steps away from the life and death arena was a large open space. After crossing the bridge now this was the first open space they arrived at. The 10,000-year-old blood corpse stood in the middle of the open space with his hands behind his back. Today, he looked even more terrifying than yesterday. His head was full of hands that grew out of the rotten flesh. There were at least 100 pairs of hands densely packed together. The hands were very small, but each hand was constantly shaking, as if it was a strange summon. He slowly turned around and ate the hands that grew out of his head. He looked at Murong Ming and said, "Very punctual." He glanced at Luo Qingqian behind him. His blood-red eyes flashed with a different kind of red light. He said, "This beautiful girl, we meet again." Luo Qingqian's cold eyes narrowed. She waved the exquisite ring on her right hand. The entire open space was instantly filled with golden light. The exquisite ring was very powerful. It directly cut off half of the hands on his head. He groaned in a low voice and said with a strange smile, "This beautiful girl is very fierce. Do you think that if you cut off my accessories, they won't grow back?" As soon as his voice fell, he shook his head forcefully. He wanted to extend his hands on the rotten flesh. Unfortunately, he failed. Luo Qingqian coldly snorted. Her eyes didn't have a trace of warmth as she looked at the half-human, half-ghost blood corpse in front of her. She said, "Do you think they'll grow back?" The 10,000-year-old blood corpse narrowed his eyes that had already fallen into the rotten flesh. He gritted his teeth and said, "Since you want to die, I'll help you." As soon as his voice fell, the sky suddenly changed color. The originally bright sky was gradually replaced by a dark red light. He roared. His body instantly changed to the height of 10 people. He roared, "Murong Ming, I lost to you in the past. The Wu people took advantage of the chaos and trapped me in Luo Sha Palace for hundreds of years. Do you know that I had just escaped from Wuling Mountain? Before that, they had imprisoned me for more than 9,000 years. He hated the Wu people, but he hated Murong Ming even more. When he used more than 9,000 years to break the seal of Wuling Mountain and was ready to drink blood and enjoy himself in the human world, Murong Ming discovered him. Murong Ming had actually discovered him, and the two of them had a great battle. In the end, both of them had suffered heavy injuries. After that, the Wu people took advantage of the situation and joined forces with the former Ghost King to seal him again. This time, he was sealed very close to the imperial palace. The righteousness of the true dragon, the son of heaven, almost suffocated him. However, he had already calculated that Murong Ming's fate was nearing its end, and he would soon be killed by his own brother. As long as Murong Ming's emperor's qi was gone, he would have a chance to seal it again. Little did they know that Murong Ming was dead. However, the Murong clan had built an imperial mausoleum for him. After he had turned into a malicious spirit, half of his power had been sealed by the previous Ghost King in the life and death arena. However, the other half of his power was enough to suppress him. In the blink of an eye, more than 700 years had passed. If his real body had not come out of the imperial tombs, he would not have had the chance to break the seal. In the next second, Murong Ming's eyes turned cold. A death scythe instantly appeared in his right hand. A red light tore open between his eyebrows. He looked at him and said, "Now, I want to see if I can subdue a bloody corpse like you with only half of my power." As soon as he finished speaking, the red and blue lasers in the sky collided with each other. The two were very fast, so fast that Luo Qingqian couldn't keep up with them. The collision between a 10,000-year-old bloody corpse and a 100-year-old malicious spirit was extremely powerful. Chapter 959. The blood corpse had already fallen to the ground in pieces. Its head was twisting as it angrily muttered, "Idiot, you can't open the life and death arena. You can't kill me without half the strength. Ha, 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 ha. After that, there was a long laugh that filled the entire life and death arena. Luo Qingshun caught Murong Ming almost at the same time. Her eyes trembled as she said, "Are you all right?" He closed his eyes and slightly knit his brows. He shook his head and looked at the blood corpse that had been torn to pieces. He said with a faint smile, "Are you sure?" If he was destined to open the life and death arena today, if his most important person was destined to die, then it was better to end it here. As soon as his voice fell, he took the netherworld ring on Luo Qingshun's left hand. His eyes were filled with determination. When the world was created, everything was in chaos. It was a tribulation that left evil spirits in the world of the living. Murong Ming. Luo Qingshun directly pressed down on the netherworld ring that was releasing large amounts of dark blue light. Her eyes were filled with shock as she said, "You're the crazy one. You're not a righteous person. Why would you die with this damn thing?" She only felt that her heart was filled with panic at this moment. There was a faint mist in her eyes, and the way she pursed her lips made one's heart ache. Murong Ming just stared at her in a daze. He looked at her clear eyes that were filled with tears, and he looked at her tightly knitted brows that were filled with worry. At this moment, he suddenly felt that everything in this world was no longer important. As long as she was by his side, it seemed like it was enough. She slightly knit her brows. When she couldn't help closing her eyes to cry, Murong Ming's right hand gave a sigh and directly covered her eyes. His left hand took her waist and pulled her to his side. His thin lips covered in blood kissed her. "I can't bear to see you cry. Use mine." As soon as his voice fell, Luo Qingshun could clearly feel a cold tear fall onto the back of her hand. It was Murong Ming's tear. There were 7 drops of sincere tears in the royal tomb. The last one could be Luo Qingshun's, but could also be Murong Ming's. Ding! Affection has increased by 100. Mission completion rate is now 100%. Murong Ming. It had been a long time since she had heard the system's prompt, but now it had given her a solid hammer. Yes. He patted her head affectionately and said, "Originally, I didn't know when the tribulation would appear. It wasn't something that could be dealt with just by opening the life and death platform, so I was never afraid. But now, he knew that the most important person to him was no longer himself. Regardless of whether it was a human or a ghost, as long as they were tied down, they would not be able to make the most decisive decision. Because there was someone he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. He didn't want to die. In the next second, the 10,000-year-old blood corpse that had been split into pieces reconnected, and the sticky parts were all stained with blood. As it laughed maniacally, human heads kept popping out of its rotting stomach. The tiny human heads carried the cries of babies and were covered in dark red blood. Murong Ming, don't you know? The 10,000-year-old blood corpse opened its mouth and laughed like it was crazy as it said, "The previous Ghost King wanted you to die. Opening the life and death platform can give you half the power to defeat me, but you will definitely face the tribulation." At this moment, the Witch Lord led the Wu people holding the soul, trapping mirror through Nai, and slowly walked onto the life and death platform. Chapter 960. I have an enemy coming. The 10,000-year-old blood corpse looked at Nai and attacked the witch priest with his right hand. At this moment, the Wu people and the others knelt down and kowtowed. "Lord Blood Corpse, please spare our lives. We're here to give you sacrifices." The witch priest didn't expect that the 10,000-year-old blood corpse would still find her after she used the powder of the Wu people to cover her scent. "Oh no," Nai and the others. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes, and the crystal in her right hand shone with a blue light. Murong Ming frowned slightly. His left hand, which was covered in blood, touched the crystal. He closed his eyes and chanted an unknown incantation. In the next second, the blue light of the crystal broke through the heavenly tribulation and went through the layers of white clouds to the dark place. Bang! A huge white light suddenly appeared, and the whole life or death arena was filled with a white light that couldn't be looked at directly. The 10,000-year-old blood corpse's eyes shone with a strange light. He raised his right hand and sucked the soul-trapping pearl into his stomach. The souls of the 5 ghosts came out of the soul-trapping pearl and were firmly sucked in by the hundreds of heads on his stomach. Luo Qingqian's right hand slightly trembled. She jumped up, and the exquisite ring on her right hand shone with layers of golden light. The talisman shards flew all over the sky and trapped the blood corpse. "Miss Run, you are not its opponent," the sisters around her said at the same time. She narrowed her cold eyes, and her eyes were filled with determination. The blood corpse groaned and opened his bloody mouth. He stared at Luo Qingqian with a breath of death and said, "Even Murong Ming can't kill me. Do you think you can? Why not?" In the next second, she narrowed her cold eyes and took out the 9-section moon whip from her portable space. She waved her right hand and firmly grabbed his neck. She growled, "Let them go." At this time, the rotten flesh on the blood corpse's neck fell little by little because of the power of the 9-section moon whip. He said with a ferocious face, "You are all my souls. Then you have to have the ability." Luo Qingqian pulled hard with her right hand. At this time, Murong Ming, who was next to her, was covered with a dark blue light. A strong white light from the life or death arena entered his body little by little. This power was most likely the power that the previous Ghost King had used to seal him. As soon as he finished speaking, he used all his strength to break free from Luo Qingqian's 9-section moon whip. However, he was unable to completely break free from the talisman fragments of the exquisite ring. In a fit of anger, he forcefully slapped the souls of the sisters. At this moment, countless soul shards filled the sky. "Thank you, girl dash," were the last words she heard. The sisters said in unison. She thought the fox was dead. In fact, the fox wasn't dead. It was just that it was seriously injured and couldn't climb up the cliff. Many years later, the fox found out that the mist had already become a sacrifice. It lived in seclusion in the mountains until a ghost appeared and they met again. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The scene had yet to dissipate when a snow-white 9-tailed fox dashed towards Nai, using his tail to tightly wrap around the scattered fragments. Chapter 9:61. The misty scene changed in an instant. The second story, the little girl and the young master. The young master didn't betray her. He just wanted to give her a status. That night, he wanted to elope with the little girl. But he didn't think that the so-called young mistress had already found out about this and took the initiative to make her sacrifice. It was a story that could be sung and wept in the world of mortals. He didn't know that such a story would only have an answer 400 years later. The scene changed again. The third story, the Taoist nun and the senior monk. In that life, the Taoist nun wasn't a human. She was a rabbit demon who transformed into a human. After falling in love with the senior monk, she suffered a heavenly tribulation and lost all her memories. The senior monk specially thought of a way to get close to the woman who lost her memories and let her enter the Taoist temple to become a Taoist nun. In this way, he could protect her. Unfortunately, fate made fools of people. He even wanted to tell her everything after she fell in love with him again. But he didn't know that because he went against the heavens, he didn't have much time left. When Luo Qingqian saw this, she almost couldn't control her emotions. No one was unfaithful, but in exchange, they had to wait for 100 years alone. Those who could rely on each other and live a peaceful life in the mortal world, what could they complain about? Countless soul fragments flew all over the sky. The scene rotated very quickly, but people couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Just as the misty scene changed to the fourth scene, a ghost general in armor appeared in front of him. He was the male lead of the fourth story, the general. The princess and the general were childhood sweethearts. He married the barbarian woman, not because the two countries were on good terms and not because of love. In the last battle of that day, he was brave and invincible on the battlefield, but he was injured by a poisonous arrow. The poison doctor who made the poisonous arrow died on the battlefield. No one knew the antidote for this poison. The barbarian woman had long been in love with him. Not only did she decide to be on good terms with the two countries, but she also decided to play a play with him. In fact, he never married the barbarian woman. Instead, He lived in seclusion in the mountains and finally died from the poison. After death, his soul lingered and didn't reincarnate. Until one day, when his childhood sweetheart appeared again, he finally understood that everything was predestined. 200 years of waiting was worth it. He stretched out his only hand, powerlessly grabbing the fragments that were about to scatter, and said, "This time, if I still wait for you to come back, will you still come back?" The last story that appeared in the air was the fifth story that had almost completely disappeared: the brothel girl and the male ghost. That year, when the male ghost found out that this silly girl was willing to kill his ex-fiancée in order to become a baleful ghost, his heart was filled with pain. He was just a ghost. He did not have the right to make her unable to reincarnate for him. He could not do that because he loved that brothel girl too much. He only wanted to listen to her singing. When she needed him, he would appear. When she no longer needed him, he would leave. Unfortunately, it took him a long time to realize that he was wrong. He knew that she was locked up in the Imperial Mausoleum, so he often went to the Imperial Mausoleum to guard it. Bang! When all the obsessions dissipated, the huge power disappeared instantly. The bloody corpse attacked Luo Qingchen again and said with a strange smile, "I've been in this obsession for so long. I didn't expect you to not run away." What an interesting sacrifice. When a baleful ghost soul was scattered, the place where the obsessions went would have great power. Chapter 962. In the blink of an eye, Luo Qingchen was about to raise the exquisite ring to fight with the blood corpse. Murong Ming pulled her behind him. His whole body was covered with blue and red light, and a black mark was torn between his eyebrows. It was an ancient and mysterious mark. He held the death scythe in his right hand. His eyes were as cold as water, but his hand were trembling slightly. Whether it was a human or a ghost, once there was a weakness. In a battle of life and death, there would be worries. Murong Ming, 700 years of resentment. It's time to end it. The blood corpse once again turned into a red light, gathering the power of the blood of heaven and earth, and attacked in the direction of Murong Ming. In an instant, Murong Ming's cold eyes narrowed, and he faced the light. The originally bloody sky was like a meteor. Countless blue and red light streaked across, and the surrounding air suddenly dropped, filled with the smell of blood. Until thousands of drops of blood fell from the sky, the blue and red light suddenly became blue, and the red light disappeared. The blood corpse's crazy laughter vaguely came from the sky. "Huh, you think I lost, but you know very well who is the loser." Then there was a loud sound, and this 10,000 years old blood corpse's soul scattered in the sky. Luo Qingchen didn't know how Murong Ming did it. She only knew that his face was pale, but his left hand was quietly holding her, and his eyes were deeply staring at the life and death arena. "Let's go back quickly," he slowly said, with a faint tremor in his voice. Holding her hand, they went back the way they came. Little did they know, everything was too late. The soul fragments of the 10,000 years old blood corpse were attached to the life and death arena. In less than a few seconds, a huge thunder and lightning struck down from the sky. The whole Nai was firmly hit by the thunder and lightning and instantly broke into two halves. The life and death arena seemed to be awakened. Along with the flickering mark between Murong Ming's eyebrows, a violent wind blew one after another. And such a terrible wind had a terrible suction force, and the target of the suction force was Luo Qingchen. Murong Ming's eyes trembled. Almost at this moment, he hugged Luo Qingchen tightly in his arms. His voice trembled beside her ear. "I beg you, don't. The seal, the tribulation, and the most important person." How laughable. He should have known that everything was predestined. From the moment she appeared, from a moment he didn't want to resist her. He should have known that the human world, hell, and life and death arena would not let him off so easily. Could he let go of the most important person in his heart that had been lonely for hundreds of years? "I think I know why you haven't given me any favorable impression points." Her brows moved slightly, and there was a faint guang in her eyes. However, there was an indescribable warmth in her heart. It turned out that it wasn't that he didn't love her, but that he didn't dare to. "Don't be afraid. I'll be with you." He buried his head in her neck, cold tears falling drop by drop. He didn't want her to die. He would rather be banished to the 18th level of hell and never be able to rise again than for her to die. 100 years in hell, a leap from the life and death arena. She pursed her lips and playfully teased him in his ear. "So this is the fate of being a sacrifice. But my bride." Murong Ming hugged her tightly, and the suction force of the life and death arena became stronger. He almost shouted himself hoarse, but he never thought that these few words would make her burst into tears in an instant. Chapter 963. Ghost Marriage. In fact, it seemed like they really did spend a period of time together, and it was quite a happy time. "Murong Ming, I know you can't do anything." Luo Qingqian's eyebrows slightly moved, the corners of her mouth slightly pursed as she said, "Are you a ghost servant from hell?" The power of the life and death stage behind her was getting stronger and stronger. Although the suction was on her body, Murong Ming was using all of his strength to tightly hold on to her, causing the surrounding wind to blow up all of the Wu people. "Murong Ming, sacrificing one person's life can save everyone in Muin country. Why do you have to be so stubborn?" The shaman saw that the situation wasn't good, so he held onto a thread of hope and loudly shouted at him. In the next second, his azure eyes were filled with an extremely dark light. The corners of his mouth hooked up into an extremely dangerous smile as he said, "Everyone, what does that have to do with me?" "You." The shaman gritted his teeth and continued, "Muin country was created by you. If you don't hand over the sacrifice, then the life and death stage will be destroyed. The life and death stage will destroy the entire country and destroy everyone. Then let everyone be buried with her." He angrily roared. The Azura field under the life and death stage was like an avalanche, layer upon layer. The dark blue light tightly surrounded Luo Qingqian's body. He was still desperately holding on to her. The suction of the life and death stage was getting stronger and stronger. Several of the Wu people's elders had already been blown into the life and death stage by the wind. After a long time, Luo Qingqian saw that the ground was a mess. Everywhere the ghost fire went, flames soared into the sky. At this moment, she suddenly understood what Murong Ming meant by being buried with her. "What are you doing?" She took a deep breath and said with some disbelief, "Are you crazy?" Murong Ming. After a long time, who knows how long, until he spat out a mouthful of blood. He bitterly smiled and said, What do I do? What else can I do?" He knew better than anyone what the consequences of jumping off the life and death stage were. He wouldn't become a reincarnated ghost. He wouldn't become a malicious ghost. He wouldn't become anything. It was far worse than having one's soul scattered. It was simply disappearing, never to exist again. "You can wait for me." Luo Qingqian pulled hard and broke free from his embrace. She looked into his blue eyes and said, "You can wait for me. I will definitely come and find you." His eyebrows moved slightly, and a powerful suction force blew Luo Qingqian into the air. His right hand gripped her clothes tightly, and his eyes were filled with despair. "Can you trust me?" Luo Qingqian pursed her lips and smiled. "I can't bear to part with you. So don't jump. Wait for me to come back." In the next second, blood dripped from his right hand. He had already used up all of his strength, but he still couldn't stop the life and death arena from taking her away. He couldn't stop this calamity. At that moment, he only felt that his right hand could no longer hold on to her. Everything in the surroundings was silent. The sky was dim, and the life and death arena was dark and gloomy. There was no wind. Everything came to a standstill the moment he let go. The source of life flowed, and the four seasons gradually came back to life. The life and death arena closed once again, carrying everyone's obsessions and his obsessions. If all of this could happen again, he would be willing to stay in the Imperial Mausoleum and the underworld for the rest of his life. He would never go to the world of the living. In an instant, Murong Ming suddenly knelt on the ground and roared at the life and death arena that was already closed and lifeless. "You are not allowed to lie to me." As his voice fell, he didn't forget to add, I am the underworld's 10th ghost king, Murong Ming. Chapter 964. The moment she fell into the life and death arena, she exchanged for the teleportation skill. She didn't know that the system's cold voice would ring out, scaring her soul out of her body. What was going on? Was there a mistake? What did it mean that she couldn't exchange for it? Exchange again. Ding! 500 exchange points has been taken. Exchange for teleportation to the 10,000 ghost country. When she opened her eyes again, there were sounds of laughter. Luo Qingshun looked around and found that she was in a strange place. There was a group of people around her, all whispering to each other. Why did this person fall from the sky? It can't be one of the 7 fairies, right? She's so beautiful. She must be a fairy. I never thought that this kind of beautiful fairy would appear in a place like ours. Luo Qingshun knit her brows and looked at this group of people. They looked very strange, but she couldn't describe how strange they were. After that, she quickly stood up and walked to a place where there was no one around without a word. She didn't forget to talk to the system while walking. System, come out for me. Why did you send me to this damn place? The life and death arena's ability is very strong. The system can't directly send the host back. Oh, so you wanted to tell me that I would die if I failed. How can the host say this about the system? Hasn't the host noticed that the system rarely appears in this world? Luo Qingshun thought about it, and it seemed to be like this. In this world, the system wasn't active at all. Why? Did the ghost world suppress you? Because the host. This question is very complicated. In short, you have to believe that the system is doing this for the host. Do you know why sows climb trees? I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Tell me where this place is. She felt it was a bit strange. This place is called the 10,000 Ghost Country. It is a country that connects the underworld's 10th temple to the world of the living, a place that exists between the yin and the yang. Were the people here all ghosts? Yes. Luo Qingshun couldn't help taking a deep breath. She pretended to look up, but she was actually a bit panicked. In her mind, the underworld was divided into 10 temples, and each temple had a ghost king that controlled it. There were all kinds of people in the human world, and it was not certain whether they were good or bad after death. Therefore, those ghosts in the gray area would be brought to the myriad ghost kingdom to await further judgment. During the day, the myriad ghost nation was no different from the mortal realm, and at night, it was no different from the underworld. No wonder I felt that this place was strange. It didn't seem like the human world, nor did it seem like any other place. Yes. Other than saying yes, what else can you say? At least tell me how to get back to Muingua. There are 2 ways to return to Mu, a nation from Wangue Nation. The first way, pass through the life and death blood pool. The system doesn't mind using it. The second way, defeat the black and white messengers and obtain a chance to return to the world of the living. Fine. I know. Are there any inns in the Myriad Ghost Kingdom? Yes. But you need hell money. System, remember to put the money into my pocket. Don't ask me why. You have to take full responsibility for bringing me to this damned place. Ding. The system has successfully sent the host 100 gold coins, only available to the Wangue Kingdom. The system helplessly pushed away its non-existent hand, feeling a bit unwilling in its heart. Luo Qingshun was too lazy to care about it. She patted her chest and headed to the largest ghost inn in the city. Chapter 965. The Netherworld Ring could allow her to see the ghosts, but it could also allow the ghosts to see her and conceal her human aura. The Netherworld coins given by the system were not little in Thousand Ghost City. It was enough for her to stay in the Haunted Inn for more than a month. There were many ghosts in the Haunted Inn. There were no good or bad people here, but they all had one thing in common, which was that their male gods were the ghost kings of the 10 halls. Because when Luo Qingshun entered the Haunted Inn, she heard them chattering excitedly. Tonight, the Ghost King will come to Thousand Ghost City again. Then, do you want to be judged this time, or do you want to stay? Me? I still want to stay. But Miss Black and White won't let you have a chance to get close to the Ghost King. You should reincarnate as soon as possible. Miss Black and White. Was the Black and White emissary a woman? It's a woman. Luo Qingshun did not care too much. She casually found a room to stay in. Gui Xiao Air took good care of her because she was pretty. After midnight, the entire Thousand Ghost City was filled with a faint red mist. She had just fallen asleep when she was woken up by the sound of fighting on the street. It was a 14-year-old female ghost, Meng Yuan, and the so-called black and white emissary. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I want to wait until tomorrow to reincarnate. Meng Yuan's face was red. Her hands were tightly chained by the black and white emissary. She was holding a withered blue lily in her hand. Her eyes were filled with stubbornness. She wanted to see the Ghost King again and tell him that she had grown up. Host can choose to read Meng Yuan's past. Yes/no. Yes. She felt like she was doing a mission. Meng Yuan entered Thousand Ghost City and became a female ghost in the gray area because she killed her younger sister when she was still alive. Although she did not mean to, she did not want her younger sister to live. Because her younger sister only took advantage of her since they were young and took away all the love her parents gave her. They were twin sisters. They had the same father and mother. They were born on the same day, but their fates were completely different. When she was born as the older sister, her voice was loud. The midwife who delivered her said that she looked like a healthy child at first glance. Her sister, on the other hand, was not as lucky. She didn't know if it was because she had taken away her sister's nutrients, or if her sister's body was too weak that she had become the object of her parents' concern since birth. Since she was young, Meng Yuan had learned how to walk, eat, dress, and read on her own. Her younger sister, on the other hand, was able to become a little princess just because her body was weaker than hers. When she was 14, she asked her parents to take her to the Mid-Autumn Festival Temple Fair for the first time. For the past 14 years, she had never been there even once. Her parents had always hugged her younger sister and given her everything. They were twins. Did she deserve such unfair treatment just because her body was a little better and a little stronger? Did he deserve such a humble and dusty love? That night, her parents rejected her, as usual, and said the same words that they had said for the past 14 years. Little sister's body isn't in good health, so father and mother are bringing her to join in the fun. Tonight, you can stay at home and read by yourself. Ha ha ha, you can read by yourself. Her younger sister pinched her nose and made a face, looking excited. At that moment, her fists clenched tighter and tighter, and a wicked thought appeared in her mind. Chapter 966. Before leaving that day, she put a little more sleeping medicine in her sister's daily medicine. She just wanted her sister to sleep a little longer so that she could go see the lanterns with her parents. Little did she know, her sister never woke up again. And because of her parents' endless scolding, she finally chose to commit suicide by hanging. She didn't mean to kill her sister, so she wouldn't have fallen into the Thousand Ghost City. But suicide by hanging was one of the 10 cardinal sins, and she would be severely punished in the underworld. Because of this, she came to this gray area, the Thousand Ghost City. A mere female, Ghost wants to see the Ghost King. Who gave you the courage? And Hun, the black and white emissary, narrowed her eyes and looked at Meng Yuan with disdain. And Hun was the black and white emissary of the 10 halls of the underworld, responsible for maintaining the security of the Thousand Ghost City and reincarnation. She also had 2 followers, one called Gui He, the other called Gui Bai. Looking around, the 2 followers had an aura of arrogance, and their expressions were full of contempt. Black and white emissary, Meng Yuan just wants to thank the Ghost King. Let her stay for another night. Presumptuous, and Hun waved her whip and hit a girl's face, and the place where the whip hit instantly burned. The man quickly covered his face and groaned in pain. Ah! This girl was called Dong and she was a ghost who had stayed in the Thousand Ghost City for a long time. She looked pure and fresh, but because she had unintentionally spoken to the Ghost King, and Hun's jealousy had already arrived. For thousands of years, and Hun was the only one who stayed with the Ghost King of the 10 halls in the underworld. She naturally thought that her position in his heart was different from these wandering ghosts. You're too much. Meng Yuan pursed her lips and said, What did Dong say to treat her like this? What did I say wrong? And Hun snorted and said, You're just a group of wandering ghosts. Why should the Ghost King see you? Meng Yuan took a deep breath and said with a pleading tone, I know you're the black and white emissary, responsible for maintaining the order of the Thousand Ghost City. I just want to see Big Brother Ghost King again, and then I'll leave. When she sat on the bridge of helplessness with a confused expression, it was Murong Ming who saw her. She was brought from the 3rd Divine Palace to the 10th Divine Palace, where she was about to be demoted to the animal path. To her, the Thousand Ghost City was not a gray area. Instead, it was a place that was even warmer than her home in her previous life. In your dreams. And Hun tugged on the ghost chain forcefully. The soul on his wrist had already dissipated a little. Meng Yuan won't beg her. Donger bit her lip and said, I haven't been here for long, but I haven't been here for short either. I know very well what she's thinking in that filthy mind of hers. Pack. The soul-pacifying dark whip lashed out once more and struck Dong Er's back heavily. Her soul shuddered, and faint white fragments scattered. Her face was extremely pale. She spat out a large mouthful of blood and collapsed to the ground. Dong don't hit me, don't hit me. I'll go with you, I'll go with you. Meng Yuan almost exclaimed, crying and begging her. And Hun snorted coldly and said, You dare to be arrogant in front of me? Do you know that with one more whip, your soul will disappear from the Thousand Ghost City? Chapter 9:67. Everyone in the underworld knew who the 10 Ghost Kings were. That king with a bewitching appearance was exceptionally cold, and he had barely shown his face in the city of thousands ghosts. How could a person like him have a lover in this Yama Palace? How could he have a sweetheart? And Hun stared at Dong who was lying on the ground. The ghosts standing next to Dong felt their legs go soft. They were ghosts, and they had no use in the city of thousands ghosts. Facing the powerful black and white emissary who had the power of the underworld, they could be easily killed. If they weren't careful, their souls would be destroyed. However, at this moment, they still stood beside Dong, even though they were trembling. They didn't retreat. It seems that you really don't want to live anymore. And Hun's eyes shone with a cold red light. Her right hand held the ghost whip tightly as she approached Dong, bit by bit. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent, as if she would whip Dong in the next second and destroy her soul. But she was just a black and white emissary. Did she really dare to do such a thing? Before Luo Qingshun could think more, and Hun had already raised her hand and was about to whip down. Dong closed her eyes tightly and raised her head, intending to take the whip head on. In the next second, Luo Qingshun raised her eyebrows and waved her left hand. The netherworld ring glowed with a dark blue light and attacked in Hun's wrist. With a dong sound, the ghost whip instantly fell to the ground. Oh! And Hun looked around in disbelief, her eyes flashing with panic. In the city of thousands ghosts, who else could have magic power other than her? It was absolutely impossible. And why did the dark blue light just now feel so familiar? It was as if she had seen it somewhere before. Luo Qingshun casually took the ghost mask and a jade folding fan in the guest room, jumped out of the window, and stood next to Meng Yuan. She waved the folding fan and looked at Hun with a cold gaze. I have never heard of a small black and white emissary in the underworld being able to scatter a person's soul. Is there no law? And Hun narrowed her eyes and looked at Luo Qingshun with some vigilance. She raised her right hand and Gui Bai flipped through the book behind her. Then he walked up to her and said, Emissary, there is no such ghost. No. And Hun's heart suddenly jumped, and she muttered, How is that possible? The city of thousands ghosts was a place that could only be reached through the 10th shrine, and any ghost that passed through the 10th shrine had no magic power. But that blue light just now was so real that it knocked her whip to the ground. Who was this person? Whether you were a human or a ghost, I have a way to make you never return after trespassing into the city of thousands ghosts. And Hun narrowed her eyes and withdrew her right hand. The ghost whip once again returned to her hand. Just as Luo Qingshun was about to take out a 9-section moon whip, Meng Yuan next to her knelt down and kowtowed heavily to Hun. It's my fault. If the black and white emissary really needs to scatter the soul to eliminate the hatred in her heart, then scatter mine. It's my wishful thinking. I don't have strange thoughts. With that, she threw the blue lily in her hand to the empty ground. A drop of crystal clear tear fell down. Chapter 968. Courting Death. And Hun's right hand forcefully swung, and the dark red underworld whip flew towards her. Luo Qingqian's eyes narrowed. She casually raised her fan and caught the underworld whip. Her lips curled into a faint smile as she said, "With just this bit of skill, you still want to set up an arena to be the messenger of black and white. What a joke." As soon as her voice fell, she waved her left hand and blue light shined from her fan, wrapping around the underworld whip in Hun's hand. She lightly snorted, and the underworld whip instantly burned like a ghost fire, disappearing without a trace. "You!" And Hun loudly roared. Her eyes were filled with ruthlessness as she looked at her and said word by word, "I'll let you see the consequences of forcefully sticking up for someone else." At this moment, a dragon soul mirror appeared in her right hand. Wherever the mirror's white light went, all the ghosts clutched their chests with a pained expression. Luo Qingqian's eyes narrowed as she said, "I've never seen a mirror more terrifying than this bronze mirror in my life." She narrowed her eyes, and the exquisite ring on her right hand filled the sky with golden light. Countless talisman fragments surrounded Hun, causing the ghosts around her to be in even more pain. Their souls drifted and were on the verge of scattering. The exquisite ring was a yang item, so it was a divine weapon that could kill ghosts without them noticing. And Hun's face instantly paled as beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. As a ghost envoy, she naturally couldn't withstand the attack of a yang item. The dragon soul mirror in her hand released a dim red light to block, but it still made it hard for her to breathe. Luo Qingqian saw that the ghosts around her all had sinister expressions and were in great pain. Knitting her brows, she put away the exquisite ring. The golden light disappeared, and the dragon's soul mirror fell to the ground like a piece of scrap metal. "Bold madman, you actually dare to damage the dragon soul mirror. Let me tell you, don't even think about leaving 10,000 Ghost City in your lifetime." And Hun's face was extremely ugly at this moment. Her lips trembled uncontrollably. Every time she spoke, she would gasp for air. Her eyes were filled with hatred. After all, she was used to acting like a tyrant in this 1,000 Ghost City. As long as the Ghost King did not come, she could make all the decisions here. After all, this place belonged to the black and white zone between the underworld and the mortal realm. Many rules and regulations had no effect here. Now, just as she was about to teach Meng Yuan and Donger a lesson for seducing the Ghost King, a masked man appeared out of nowhere. She was neither a hoodlum from the 1,000 Ghost City nor an ordinary person. She had 2 divine artifacts on her, and she could clearly sense that one of them belonged to the underworld. Luo Qingqian heard this and gave a lazy yawn. There was a faint mist in her eyes, but it made her stop for a moment. Once upon a time, that person also liked to put on such a lazy expression. His expression was indifferent, and it was often impossible to tell what was in his blue eyes. It was probably during the life and death arena that she truly understood some of his inner thoughts. Under that black-bellied and fearless appearance, there was an extremely fragile heart. He was afraid that she would leave, afraid that she would die. But when she thought of this, she was disinclined to waste time with this ghost envoy in front of her. In the next second, she raised her eyebrows and said, "It seems that this dragon soul mirror is a good thing. It's a pity that the owner is too weak and can't be of any use." Chapter 969. Luo Qingqian nodded. She picked up Meng Yuan, who was kneeling on the ground, and took out an ice soul pill for Dong or eat it. Ding! 500 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for 1 ice soul pill. This was a pill that could only be used by Gue Han. It was used to quickly heal internal injuries and condense the soul. After Dong ate it, her face gradually turned red. The ghosts all had looks of disbelief as they looked at her with looks of worship. Requiem's eyes widened in disbelief. She couldn't believe that the female ghost that she had destroyed with 1 spiritual soul and 3 physical souls was able to reassemble her soul in an instant after taking a mysterious pill. Although the ice soul pill had the effect of gathering souls, it was only limited to ghosts that hadn't completely scattered. Moreover, it had to have two souls. If there was one soul missing, the eye soul pill wouldn't have any effect. Go hey, report to all the ghost kings in hell. Someone has trespassed into hell. And Hun clearly knew that she couldn't beat Luo Qingchen. If she kept fighting, she would die in this city that used to be so arrogant. At that time, the person in front of her was still in hell. As long as the Ghost Kings came, she wouldn't be able to escape no matter what divine weapon she had. Luo Qingshan waved her left hand, and a dark blue light tripped Gue He. After that, she looked at Han and said, "Since I've already become a thorn in your side, why should I give you a chance to report me?" The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, carrying a strange and confident smile. It was like a red spider lily that bloomed in hell. And Hun was stunned. She suddenly felt a bit of fear in her heart at this moment. She was strangely afraid in her own territory. "What do you want to do?" She bit her lips, and her eyes trembled. She was already thinking of a countermeasure. She didn't know when the Ghost King would come tonight. She had to get injured before he came, but she couldn't die. Yes, she liked the Ghost King. She liked him very, very much. She liked this man like crazy. But in the 100 years since he took over the 10th Divine Temple, the tone he used to talk to her was the same as when he first met the female ghost. There was no difference at all. Cold, indifferent, and emotionless. "Me?" Luo Qingshan raised her eyebrows and nudged Meng Yuan. "What do you want?" Meng Yuan was stunned. Apparently, she did not expect Luo Qingshan to ask her this question. She was just a lowly female ghost who was despised by her family. She even killed her own sister with her own hands. In the next second, she sniffled and her tears fell. Luo Qingshan was stunned. She looked at her in confusion and said, "I didn't bully you." As expected, there were times when she didn't really understand the train of thought of a woman who cried easily. "What does she want?" And Hun sneered and said, "She has already passed the time of reincarnation. She still wants to see the Ghost King now? Dream on. People like you should be banished to the 18th level of hell, never to be reincarnated." And Han directly interrupted Meng Yuan, who was about to speak. She stared at her fiercely and said, "No one who killed their own sister and hanged themselves is qualified to be reincarnated." In her eyes, this kind of person was an extremely dirty thing, even if they fell into the path of animals. A ghost like her was not worthy to see the revered Ghost King. Chapter 970. I am the black and white emissary of the city of 10,000 ghosts. I naturally have the right to prevent her from seeing the Ghost King. And Hun slightly nodded, seeing a red light streak across the sky. She said, "Let me tell you, not only do I have the right to prevent her from seeing the Ghost King, I also have the right to send you to the 18th level of hell." The anger she had been suppressing could finally be released in an instant. The timing was just right. Someone was almost here. What a joke. Luo Qingshan's cold eyes narrowed. Her deep eyes revealed a faint cold light as she stared at her. Word by word, she said, "If you have the ability, then come." As her voice fell, she opened her jade fan, not fearing this so-called black and white emissary in front of her. For some reason, when she first saw this so-called black and white emissary, she was extremely displeased. A girl's sixth sense was very strong. This person was definitely not a good person. Shio! In the next second, an Hun leapt forward and attacked her with her bare hands. The corner of her mouth lifted into a faint smile. Waving her jade fan, she used the power of the netherworld ring to attack in her direction. In a flash, she was about to use the exquisite ring on her right hand to seal the place where she was going to dodge. She directly crashed into it. The netherworld ring's power was too great, sending her flying several meters away. The surrounding ghosts all sucked in a breath of cold air. Luo Qingshan frowned, her eyes filled with confusion. That attack, just now, this so-called black and white emissary, should have been able to dodge it. It was because of this that she wanted to use the exquisite ring to seal the way. She didn't expect her to directly crash into her attack. Before she could understand, a cold wind blew in all directions. The wind was extremely fast, causing the surrounding temperature to drop. In that instant, her heart suddenly trembled. A thin layer of mist appeared in her eyes. Why did this feeling feel so familiar to her? Oh no, the Ghost King is here. Miss, get behind me. I'll take care of everything. Meng Yuan suddenly pulled her back. She tightly clenched her fist so that her hands would no longer tremble. Dong! Er hurriedly stood up and stood in front of Meng Yuan. She held Meng Yuan's hand tightly and said, "Don't be afraid. At most, your soul will be destroyed. I also committed suicide. When we were human, we weren't even afraid of death. What's there to be afraid of in the face of ghosts?" Her life had been miserable. Her husband had run away with someone else. After that, she was deceived and sold into a brothel. At that time, she was unwilling to accept such humiliation, so she set fire to herself. What was laughable was that the mother of the brothel even became a ghost that was buried with him. She had long been banished to the 18th level of hell, never to be reincarnated. Yes. Ming Yuan took in a deep breath and nodded heavily. I'm not afraid. With Dong around, I'm not afraid of anything. This was probably Dong Er's first time experiencing the existence of love, but friendship could also be family. At this moment, her hands were no longer trembling. With her head held high and her chest puffed out, she faced the hypocritical black and white emissaries, the supreme Ghost King. Never retreat, Luo Qingshan chuckled. She felt that these two ghosts were very cute. The two of them couldn't help but remind her of the 5 sisters she had met in the Imperial Mausoleum. They also liked to call her Miss at the last moment. She was actually unable to protect their souls. In the end, she had let them down. The 10 kings of hell traveled through the ghost domain. Tens of thousands of ghosts returned to the city. Chapter 971. Ghost King. Someone trespassed into the city of thousands ghosts. And Hun didn't. He couldn't catch her. And Hun clutched his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood, grabbing the corner of his clothes, a sharp light flashing in his eyes. For so long, the Ghost King had never looked at her properly. Now, she was being bullied by thousands of ghosts and was seriously injured. No matter how cold a man was, he would still hold her hand and pull her up. She was waiting for him to reach out. In the next second, Meng Yuan hurriedly knelt down and said, "No, it's not like that. You're a malicious ghost, yet you still dare to argue. What do you think the underworld is?" And Hun angrily rebuked, a dark red light flashing in his eyes. At this moment, Murong Ming was walking towards Lu Qingshan step by step, his heart trembling with every step. He could sense that the netherworld ring was in this place. He could even smell the faint fragrance in the air. It was her exclusive aura. The person under the mask was holding a jade folding fan in his hand. He couldn't see the face clearly, but it made his heart tremble. Reporting to the Ghost King, Donger saw that Meng Yuan was so frightened by Han that she couldn't say a word. So she immediately knelt down and said, "Everything is Dong Er's fault. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Please investigate, Ghost King." A person who saved her and put himself in danger for her. If she ran away, wouldn't she be a villain? At this moment, a blood-red moon was hanging upside down in the sky. She couldn't hear what the people around her were saying, what they were doing. The entire city of thousands ghosts seemed to have fallen into absolute silence at this moment. There was only that person in black robes in front of her. Step by step, he walked towards him. His deep eyes were filled with a faint blue light. His thin lips were gently pursed, and his eyes were misty. 5 meters away, he stopped. He seemed to want to say something, but it was stuck in his throat. "Ghost King, please investigate this matter thoroughly. This masked person doesn't know how to fool around. She must have ulterior motives for trespassing into the netherworld. It must be a big conspiracy." There was a hint of disappointment in An Hun's eyes, because Murong Ming had never stayed by her side for even a moment from beginning to end. He didn't even reach out to pull her up. Just like that, he kept walking until he reached a certain place and stopped. His eyes were fixed in front of him, and he didn't say a single word. After a long time, when the air became suffocating, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "I know." These 3 short words seemed to be a response to Hun's words. Her eyes lit up, apparently thinking that the Ghost King had completely believed her words. She couldn't help but continue to add oil to the fire. This person has a strange divine artifact on him, so he must be related to demons. I'm reporting this to the ghost kings of the various palaces so that this evildoer will reveal his true face." As her voice fell, she clutched her chest and slowly got up. Just as she was about to leave in a half-weak and half-strong manner, a blue light like a barrier instantly blocked in front of her. She looked back with some confusion, but still firmly said to Murong Ming, "Rest assured, Ghost King, I only have a small injury on my body. Cough, cough. No need to worry." "Worry?" He sneered and lazily narrowed his eyes. The corner of his mouth hooked up into an extremely dangerous smile. "In this life, there's only one person that can make me worry." He slightly nodded and looked at Luo Qingxian in front of him. With a wave of his right hand, a light blue light surrounded her body. In an instant, she was brought into an embrace that she hadn't felt in a long time by a gentle force. In the next second, his left hand wrapped around her waist, and his right hand lifted up to take off her mask. Chapter 972. Luo Qingxian did not expect that Murong Ming would be able to completely ignore the people around him. Oh no, the eyes of all the ghosts at this moment directly kissed her. She was a little flustered and wanted to escape, but her waist was forcefully pulled in by him, and the hot kiss was even more domineering. At this moment, all the ghosts around them were dumbfounded. Of course, this included Requiem, who was said to be heavily injured. Her eyes were almost fixed on Murong Ming, and her eyes were filled with dead silence and despair. A man she thought would never be able to get close to, a man she thought would be cold and taciturn to everything. She thought that whoever he could talk to, that person was a special man. Unexpectedly, in front of all the ghosts in the Thousand Ghost City, he almost crazily kissed a strange woman. "You made me wait for a long time." After a long time, he slowly let go of her, hugged her tightly, and whispered in her ear. "Was it long?" Luo Qingxian frowned. She was a little puzzled. "And," his arms tightened, and his slightly cold voice trembled, "I missed you so much. Didn't she just leave for a day?" Why did Murong Ming say it was long? The underworld and the human world are not in the same parallel universe. In the time calculated by the male lead, the host left for 7 days. Is 7 days considered long? Luo Qingxian pulled the corner of her mouth, gently rubbed her nose, and looked at him with red eyes. "But I didn't lie. I said I would come back." "Yes, it's very, very long." Murong Ming looked at her stubbornly and said, "How scared I am. How desperate I am. You won't understand." His eyes were red, and there were faint tears in the corners of his eyes. Every word and every sentence was said with sincerity, as if he was a completely different person from the lazy Murong Ming she first met. Hiss! The ghosts who were holding their breaths and staring at them were discouraged at this moment. Luo Qingxian suddenly reacted. There were still a lot of ghosts looking at them. The next second, she touched her ear embarrassedly and said, "How could you be the Ghost King? I thought you were a ghost servant." The Ghost King of the 10 Halls was a very high official position. He, a wandering ghost of the Imperial Mausoleum. Actually, it's a long story. He rubbed her head and said gently, "Maybe you can say that success and failure are caused by blood corpses." So Ghost King, Luo Qingxian still wanted to say something, but was interrupted by the pale-faced and Han not far away. She pursed her lips and shook her head desperately. "Who is this? The Ghost King has never brought anyone to the Thousand Ghost City. Who is this?" She did not believe it. Why? 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 While they were kissing, she kept asking herself over and over again why this was happening. She was clearly the one who had accompanied him for hundreds of years. How could the appearance of a strange woman change the original trajectory of everything? She did not ask for his love, but she could not bear to see him love someone else. What a joke. Is this girl's relationship with the Ghost King something you can question? Donger snorted coldly. Seeing an Hun in front of her like this, her heart was very happy. In an instant, an Hun gritted his teeth and attacked Dong with a dark light. Luo Qingxian narrowed her eyes and raised the netherworld ring on her left hand, directly hitting back the dark light. The next second, Murong Ming nervously held her hand, afraid that she would be hurt. Chapter 973. As soon as his voice fell, Murong Ming's cold eyes narrowed, and Hun's body exuded a dark red light. The circle of light shrank little by little, and she was firmly trapped in it. Ghost! Ghost King! She pressed her neck, and her eyes seemed to be about to pop out. All the ghosts knew that if you died in Thousand Ghost City, then you would never have the chance to go to Yama Palace and get any public trial. Murong Ming used an almost incomparably cruel way to treat An Hun, and it also told everyone that Luo Qingqian's position in his heart. No one could compare to her, including himself. With a bang, An Hun was easily turned into ashes in front of her. He used his absolute power to do what he felt was the most right thing to do. Because Meng Yuan couldn't catch up with tonight's reincarnation, Murong Ming changed her birthday and let her stay in Thousand Ghost City for one night. Dong, boiled a pot of wine, which was unique to Thousand Ghost City, and could be drunk by both people and ghosts. Meng Yuan was very excited because the person sitting opposite her was Murong Ming, and the two people beside him were a ray of light that warmed her dark life. This cup of wine is to my Prince Charming. She slowly raised the wine cup and handed the trampled blue lily to him. Thank you for what you said to me on the bridge of helplessness. At that time, Murong Ming had just experienced the sorrow of the life and death arena. After returning to the underworld, he saw Meng Yuan for the first time. He waved his right hand and knew about her previous life. At that time, when he crossed the bridge of helplessness, he said to her, "Everyone's identity is different. Maybe your sister is also very envious of you." Because of this sentence, Murong Ming showed her his sister's thoughts. His sister was weak and sickly since she was young. Because she was strong, she absorbed the nutrients that her sister deserved. Therefore, this birth was an unfair weight. His sister wanted to be like her elder sister. When she was happy, she could run around outside. When she saw the food she liked, she could eat it. When she saw the person she liked, she could chase after him. But reality gave the weak and sickly sister a naked blow. Her body was too weak. She could only stay at home almost every day. She would pant after taking 2 more steps. When she saw a gentle scholar looking for Meng Yuan to go out and play, her heart felt like it was being squeezed together. She had her parents' love and care, but no one else's. In this world, there were gains and losses. This was the cycle of karma. Murong Ming nodded and drained the wine cup in his hand. Meng Yuan smiled. She smiled very happily. She poured herself another glass of wine and looked at Luo Qingqian. This glass of wine is for Sister Qingqian. Thank you for letting me know that a woman can also be very strong. The heart must be strong enough to not lower its head in front of the enemy. Her appearance had changed her deep-rooted thoughts. She was cowardly, afraid, and vulnerable. One day in the future, she hoped that she could reincarnate into someone like Luo Qingqian. Fight for whatever you want. Don't be afraid. Don't shrink back. Luo Qingqian raised her eyebrows slightly and was about to pick up the wine glass. Murong Ming took it without hesitation. After drinking it, he said, "She is not a ghost after all. Try not to drink." Ha. Meng Yuan seemed to be a little drunk. She narrowed her eyes and smiled sweetly. Meng Yuan has never seen the Ghost King pamper a person so much. Really? I'm envious. Meng Yuan, you drank too much. Luo Qingqian looked at her unconsciously falling tears and suddenly felt a little sad. Chapter 974. The next second, she shakily poured herself another cup of wine, looked at Dong and said, "Finally, I want to thank Dong Jiejie for letting me be reborn. I may forget you in the next life, but I will try my best to remember what happened between us, even if it's just a little bit. It's good." The night was very long, but also very short. Luo Qingqian didn't stay for long, but was brought back to the human world by Murong Ming at dawn. After all, Thousand Ghost City couldn't accommodate a living person like her. A lot of things happened while she was away. Su Luo completely fell into madness, saying all day long that someone wanted to kill her. Murong Hanxian couldn't stand her and directly locked her in the cold palace. But at this time, his body was becoming more and more sleepy, inexplicably sleepy. Others didn't know why these two people were so miserable, but Luo Qingqian was very clear. Murong Ming's methods were very ruthless. Killing a person was definitely the most merciful way to him. But for Su Luoluo and Murong Han Xian, he was not willing to be merciful. The Wu people received punishment for going against the heavens because of the life and death arena. The Wu people's tribe was continuously rained with fire for half a month, and the entire Wu people didn't even have a blade of grass left. Even the astrology platform no longer existed. Not long after, Murong Ming died. He didn't have a son when he was alive, and no one inherited his throne after he died. The throne was empty for a long time, and in the end, it was succeeded by the great general Jin Yuan. The country's name was changed to Zhou. All of this must have been arranged by Murong Ming. The great general Jin Yuan was a little prince reincarnated from Murong Ming's family 700 years ago. Although he had no blood relationship with the Murong family, there didn't seem to be much of a relationship. The world must be united after a long time, and divided after a long time. The Murong family ruled Mu and country for 700 years, and it was time to change the face. In the mortal world, everything seemed to have come to an end. On this day, Luo Qingshun had nothing to do, so she opened the imperial tomb built for Murong Ming. When she walked into the first floor, she seemed to be able to hear the voices of her sisters, and the scene of her first meeting with them flashed in front of her eyes. At that time, they were enemies and not friends, but now she was sad because of him and the others. There was still a crystal coffin in the center of the third floor. When one stepped on the ice, it would still make a creaking sound. She slowly walked forward and lazily leaned against the ice coffin. She imitated Murong Ming and casually tapped the coffin with her right hand. In the next second, she cleared her throat and imitated his low voice. In 700 years, you are the first person to come here. Ah, little did she know that before she could finish enjoying the pleasure of imitating him, a voice rang out. Her waist was suddenly hugged, and her whole body fell into the ice coffin. What do you want to do by sneaking into my room? Murong Ming hugged her tightly, his eyes filled with tenderness. He had only gone to the underworld to deal with some matters. Of all places, this little girl had to go to the imperial tombs. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips. She wanted to say something, but her lips were blocked by his thin and cold lips. His soft lips gently rubbed against hers, carrying his unique scent. After a long time, he gently let go of her. The corner of his mouth hooked up into a lazy smile. Welcome home, mistress. Such a cold home. Luo Qingshun pretended to be proud and pouted, her face full of dissatisfaction. Little did she know that in the next second, a faint blue light appeared around them, and the entire ice coffin turned into a soft bed. He gently pulled her into his embrace and whispered in her ear, "Wife, it's time to sleep. This feeling is so strange." How is it strange? It's like we're in the underworld, but we are a ghost marriage. It seems so. Chapter 975. Endless souls of mulberry field for 1,000 years, day and night. The heart is covered by rocks and moss. Murong Ming, my name is Murong Ming. My original identity was the ghost king of the 10 halls with unlimited power. I walked between the two realms of yin and yang, crossing yin souls and burning malicious ghosts. But I didn't know that all of this was changed by a newly promoted priest of the underworld. In order to replace me, he didn't hesitate to use all means to push me into the path of reincarnation. He became someone I could never imagine. The moment I was born, I had absolute memories, but there was nothing I could do. That year, the world was in chaos. The common people couldn't make a living, and I became their hope. Commanding the ghost army, going to the battlefield, and bringing peace to the world, it wasn't all a legend. During the 6 years of war, I agreed with all the countries to establish the country as Muin, but I didn't expect that the heavens would play a huge joke on me. My half-brother, who had the same father but a different mother, actually joined forces with the Wu people to kill me for the sake of the imperial power. Being torn apart by 5 horses, how happy! What he didn't expect was that after I died, the sky began to rain blood. The Wu people naturally calculated that I would become a malicious ghost and seek them out. After some discussion, they built an imperial tomb for me. Within 7 days, they put my body in the tomb and sealed it with blood wax, trapping my soul inside. But although I died, I unexpectedly took back the position of the Ghost King of the 10 Halls. The priest of the underworld, who was supposed to replace me, had his soul burned by the flames of hell and could never be reincarnated. And I was trapped because of my physical body. I could only travel between the imperial tomb and the underworld. I couldn't go to the human world. The kings of the underworld all said that this was fate. Perhaps the change of fate was the appearance of a tribulation. Life was death. Death was life. Good was bad. Bad was good. Maybe it was plain, but it was also good. Every year, because of the malicious ghosts, they would choose sacrifices to escape the punishment of going against the heavens. And my lazy life, which had been silent for 700 years, was finally disturbed on the day of this year's sacrifice. It was the first time I saw someone pass those female ghosts and go up to the 3rd floor so smoothly. When he looked at me, he didn't panic. His eyes were very clear, and he was very casual. I quickly sucked her blood and told her that it was a meeting gift. Actually, that's because if a human comes into contact with a ghost, their mortal energy will be absorbed by the ghost. Moreover, I'm not an ordinary ghost. If she stayed with me in the same imperial tomb, she would die within 2 hours. Even at the end of the story, I didn't tell her about it. I never thought that I would have anything more to do with her than serve and master until she swore to make a deal with me. She said, "We have the same enemy." Moreover, the slight smile on her lips told me that she could leave. At that moment, there was an indescribable light on her body that attracted me to look at her. However, this was mostly just a distraction. I put Ghost into the Netherworld ring to see if she really had a way to appear. Who would have thought that she would leave the imperial tombs in an instant? How could an ordinary person do such a thing? At this moment, I realized that she was definitely not an ordinary person. Although I didn't know who she was, I had a feeling that she had a huge secret, and I actually felt bad because I couldn't see through her secret. If there was a first time that she shocked me, it was probably that night in the memorial hall. She stood in the center of 33 malicious ghosts with a strange cold smile on her lips as she chanted the sacrificial words for the divine artifact. Chapter 976. In the end, I saved her, or it could be said that I didn't let her finish the sacrificial speech, because I couldn't bear for her to die. Later, we seemed to be close. I accompanied her to the palace, and she accompanied me to collect tears. At first, I wanted to open the life and death platform to recover some of my divine power, but then I was afraid of opening the life and death platform because I was afraid of facing a calamity. If the important person in the tribulation 100 years ago is myself, I can take a gamble. But if it was her, I couldn't take the gamble. Unfortunately, the heavens always like to torture you. They won't stop until you're dead. When the life and death platform opened, I knew my calamity was coming. Once I changed that important person, once the most important person was no longer myself, the calamity was coming. It was really cruel. At that moment, the wind on the life and death platform was so strong that it blurred my eyes and scattered my heart. At that time, I was probably crazy. All I thought about was dying with her. I hugged her tightly, hoping that the wind wouldn't be so strong. I hoped that the life and death platform wouldn't take her away. I hoped that all the calamity would fall on me. I didn't care if my bones turned to ashes or my soul scattered. But in the end, I couldn't make her stay. She said that she would come back. I used all my willpower to believe that it was true. 7 days passed in a daze. I didn't know if I was human, ghost, or king. The netherworld, demons, and monsters. It was as if all of this had nothing to do with me. She was the only one left in my world. Finally, after 7 days, I felt her presence on the road of thousands of ghost cities. I ran as fast as I could to confirm my thoughts. Finally, the moment I landed, I saw her beside the ghosts. She was wearing a strange mask and holding a jade fan. When she saw me, she was obviously stunned, and I didn't have time to think. I directly hugged her tightly. The reality of that moment almost made me cry. Moved, surprised, scared, owned, reunited, everything surrounded me and her. Only me and her. I stayed with her in the human world for a lifetime. I bought a villa, and lived a carefree life. But I was the Ghost King. She was human. I know that this is only a short life for her. But I felt that this life was too short. It was so short that when she covered her face and hid with her white hair, I was the first to cry. I'm old idiot, me too. I ate the aging pill and slowly grew old with her, but she always knew that if I wanted to change back, I could do so at any time. In her old age, she liked to lean her head on my shoulder and watch each moon. I always liked to hug her and think about how much I would have if I were immortal. After her soul went to the underworld, should I keep her memories? Should he let her reincarnate, or let her stay in the underworld for the rest of her life? I always thought that this was the only problem I had to face. However, the heavens did not let me off. At the moment she died of old age, I thought I would be able to see her soul and personally take her to the underworld. Little did she know that the moment her soul left her body, it shattered piece by piece and disappeared just like that, without a trace. She was dead. She was dead forever. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, for years time passed very quickly. Now, she had left me for more than 1,000 years. I couldn't remember her appearance. Even her voice gradually became blurry. But the stubbornness hidden in the bottom of my heart has never dissipated. There were always people who asked me, Ghost King, why aren't you looking for the Underworld Empress? It's been several thousand years. Are you used to being alone? I would always reply with a lazy smile. My wife told me to wait for her. I'm waiting. Netherworld Road, river of forgetfulness, sighing in front of the bridge of helplessness. My life's thoughts came like flying flowers scattered like smoke. Chapter 977. Welcome home, host. The moment she came back, she touched her face. She liked the freshness of her skin, and she still looked like she was 17 or 18 years old. Her face was full of collagen. It turned out that aging was a very scary thing, especially knowing that the man beside her had not aged at all, but her beauty was fading little by little with time. This kind of feeling was too torturous. So the host is also afraid of aging. Isn't the system afraid that one day its parts will be broken? The system helplessly shrugged and silently said in its heart, "Vicious host." The host can choose to watch the scene after you leave. Yes/no, yes. When she chose yes, she was actually a little flustered. Murong Ming was a very stubborn person, a man who was one of a kind in this world. His terrifying obsession started in the world of the living and existed in the netherworld. For generations, for tens of thousands of years, it probably would not dissipate. The bronze mirror was suffused with a faint blue light, and the scene gradually became clear. A blurry figure lazily leaned on the bridge of helplessness in the netherworld, holding a wine pot, and the light in his eyes was very deep. He drank jug after jug, regardless of day or night. Every time a ghost passed by him, he would helplessly shake his head. He would leave behind a few words of gossip and read it in bits and pieces. I heard that the Ghost King of the 10th Palace was in love with a mortal woman. And then, why didn't he marry her and make her the Ghost Empress? How could the Ghost King of the Netherworld be willing to marry a mortal woman? Naturally, he would... Wow. In the next second, a burst of strange laughter came from the bridge of helplessness. Bang! He threw the wine pot and laughed. If she exists in this world, as long as she is within the 3 realms and 5 elements, I, Murong Ming, can guarantee that I can protect her without any harm. But no one gave him such a chance. He was at a loss, as if he had fallen into an endless abyss, and only despair was left after thousands of years. The last scene in the bronze mirror was fixed on his azure eyes, and there was a faint mark behind his ear, a mark that was unique to him. Host, the scene has finished playing. She slightly nodded, and the tears that were about to fall flowed back. She took a deep breath and said, "Continue." Suddenly, she did not want to rest, because someone was waiting for her, waiting for her. She should meet him as soon as possible, no matter if it was good or bad. The following is a summary of the data for this mission. Please read it carefully. Name, Luo, Qingchen World Space. Ghost Wedding Bride. Sacrificial Substitute. Mission completion rate. 100% currently. There are 3 items in his EXP spatial storage. Exquisite Ring. and 9-section moonwhip. Exchange points, 9,500, 1,000 deducted from the previous dimension. Base points, 40, host. The 19th mission panel is below. In the next second, the image in the bronze mirror changed. Mission rating, B. EXP gained, 500. Exchange points gained, 5,000. Female lead, Luo Qingshun, Jane Qingshun. Male lead, Li Xinai supporting actress. Mi Xena supporting male lead. Han Zaishi cannon fodder. Su Xiaoxia mission content. Return to an hour before the female lead died and obtain the love of the male lead Li Xinai. Secondary mission. Help cannon fodder Su Xiaoxiao get rid of her depression and regain the confidence to live on. Oh, there's actually a side quest. Host, are you ready? Yes. Chapter 978. The story of the previous host was a person with depression, a princess of the French royal family. Her father was French and her mother was Chinese, so she had a bit of foreign blood in her eyes. Her eyes were deep, dark brown, and her eyelashes were 5 centimeters long, looking very good. Before she was 8 years old, she lived in China. After she was 8 years old, she went to France. It was the beginning of a new life, but for her, it was the opening of a door. Fate was not very fair to her. When she was 16 years old, she suffered from depression and the pure girl began to fall. The bar was the place she went to the most. The previous host liked noisy music, liked flashing lights, and liked cocktails after cocktails. She liked the faint smell of cigarettes, and the things she liked the most were sleeping pills. But as the princess of the French royal family, how could her family allow her to be so wanton? They kept catching her, tying her up, and putting her under house arrest, making her illness more and more serious. But her heart was filled with negative emotions, and she had nowhere to vent them. There was only one thought left in her mind, which was suicide. At first, she would take 1 sleeping pill to sleep for a night, then 2, then 3. No one could read her mind. She could only write it down word by word. She wrote it down in her diary and drew a cute chibi stick figure drawing. The previous host's only friend was Han Zaizi, a French student who was in the same class as her. Whenever she saw Han Zaizi, she would feel that he was filled with positive energy. But one day, she found that her best friend was not that bright. He fell in love with someone, and that person was a man. That man rejected him on his birthday. When he held the cake in his hand and wanted to share it with him, the man smashed it to the ground on the spot and pointed at his head, calling him crazy. At that moment, the previous host held the cake knife in her hand and wildly slashed at that man. The depression in her heart seemed to explode at that moment. The knife was very blunt, and although the man was injured, there was no fatal danger. From that day on, the previous host was put under house arrest by the French royal family, not allowing her to take half a step out of the palace. Every night, she would take more and more sleeping pills. One night, she had to take 100 sleeping pills before she could close her eyes. However, once she closed her eyes, she never opened them again. She had no memory of the male lead. He also had no memories of the supporting female lead and cannon fodder. The moment he opened his eyes, it was a quiet night. There was a soft princess bed and a huge room. Everything was luxurious and extravagant. The next second, when she regained her consciousness, she felt a sharp pain in her stomach. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the empty bottle on the bedside table. Only then did she realize what the system had said. Return to 1 hour before the female lead died. Damn it, the system was getting more and more ruthless. It didn't care about her life at all. Without thinking, Luo Qingshun dialed the emergency number in France and ran to the bathroom to take sleeping pills. She dug and vomited at the same time. She did not know how much she had dug out. She only knew that her body was getting weaker and weaker. In the end, everything went black and there was nothing left. It couldn't be that she hadn't met the male lead yet and hadn't started the mission yet. She should just die like this. Chapter 979. When she opened her eyes again, she was in a high-end ward. The air was filled with the smell of alcohol. She liked the smell of alcohol since she was a child. She always felt that it was a very special smell. Ching Chun, baby, are you awake? Surrounded by her parents and her best friend, Han Zaishi, the doctor said a lot of things in French. Well, she understood. Her stomach has been completely cleaned, but because some of the components of the sleeping pills have been absorbed by the body, Miss Luo may be sleepy in the next few days. The doctor said respectfully, "Next, we will do a mental test for Miss Qingshan. We suspect that she may have a very serious depression. Generally speaking, people who committed suicide by swallowing sleeping pills were more or less a little depressed. But people who committed suicide by swallowing 100 sleeping pills were definitely terminally ill. But that was the original owner, not her. She was not sick. If she had not come too late, she would not have to go through such a painful thing as gastric lavage, okay? It's all your fault. Qingshan is just a daughter. You have to accept so many rules of the royal family. Now, something has finally happened." Luo Wan cried and hit Alan's body hard, saying angrily. Luo Qingshan's name in France was Jane Qingshan. Alan held his gold-rimmed glasses. His eyes were also full of self-blame. He used to say that his daughter did not do well here and there. When she really swallowed 100 sleeping pills and went to the gates of hell, he fell into a deep fear. Nothing was more terrible than death. She could not be a princess, but she had to live. "Then what do you think we should do?" Alan sighed. "It's just that we were born in a noble family. There are some things that we don't have the right to choose. Send her back to China." Luo Wan crossed her arms and said seriously, "Now the nobles have a very bad evaluation of her. She can't bear the pressure of public opinion. I can't let my daughter die. I'd rather let her experience a new life." "What country?" "China," Luo Wan said firmly. She grew up in China before she was 8 years old. "There's nothing wrong with going back now." Alan was a little worried and said, "But she's not familiar with China now. Can she take care of herself if she's sick? The Li family is so powerful in City A. I'll call Uncle Li and tell him about my relationship with his daughter. It's enough for the Li family to take good care of her." Right now, Luo Wan couldn't let her daughter stay here. Every mouth of the nobles could tear her apart. She needed a brand new environment and a brand new version of herself. In the end, Alan consulted the doctor. The doctor believed that a change of environment was the best solution for suicidal people. After thinking about it again and again, Alan agreed. However, Luo Qingshan said that she could not let anyone in China know her identity. After all, this was a national secret. Before leaving, Luo Wan took Luo Qingshan into a room alone. She looked at her reluctantly and said, "You have to be good when you leave, Mom. Call me every day to tell me you're safe. I hope you'll be there every tomorrow. Don't suddenly leave, Mom." She was reluctant to let her daughter leave her. She was really reluctant. But whether she locked her up or set her free, it was impossible in the so-called royal family. Chapter 980. Luo Qingshan nodded and her eyes suddenly turned red. Because of her words, "I hope that you'll be there every day." Although she had just arrived here, this body could still reflect some emotions that made her heart feel suffocated. "I know, Mom." She pursed her lips and said with a smile, "Don't worry. After walking through the gates of hell, I suddenly found that this world is very beautiful." This was definitely the truth, the big truth. She slowly nodded and gave her a black card with a choked voice. "You can use this black card for all your expenses in China. You don't have to worry about anything. Just use the best." Ding! A side mission has been successfully opened. Live a happy life without using the black card. Are you crazy? Reject. This is a mandatory side mission. The host can't reject it. The system's slightly arrogant mechanical voice sounded, giving people the urge to tear it apart. She really did. She really wanted to curse. Luo Qingshan's lips twitched as she took the black card and said, "Thank you, Mom." Right. When she took the card, Luo Wan held her right hand and said, "This ring, you have to take good care of it. Don't lose it." Ring. Luo Qingshan slightly looked down and saw that there was a blue diamond ring on her right middle finger. The diamond ring was in a dreamy heart shape, and the blue light reflected off the white diamond. She slightly nodded and seriously looked at the diamond ring under the light. The perfect combination of light and color was simply a visual feast. It was said that there were very few blue diamonds, only 0.00001% of the total number of diamonds. But thinking about it, she was a royal, so it wasn't strange for her to have such a ring. But this sentence came from Luo Wan's mouth, so it must have a different meaning. This ring was designed by a very beautiful woman. She is a very, very powerful designer. When Luo Wan described this woman, there were tears in her eyes, and her mouth was full of praise. So powerful. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and felt like she was wearing 100 million yuan bill on her hand. This is a pair of rings. Luo Wan said with a bitter smile. It's called destiny. Destiny? Luo Qingshun's eyes trembled, and she wanted to ask more. Luo Wan extinguished her curiosity, and her words made everything she wanted to ask get stuck in her throat. This was her last work before she died, and it was the work she was most satisfied with. Luo Wan seriously looked at her and said, "In short, if you have the chance, you should meet the other owner of this pair of rings." This matter, the memories that had been buried in her heart for 8 years, seemed to have fiercely impacted her heart at this moment. Another owner? Luo Qingshun's brows slightly and asked with interest, "Mom, do you know her?" She wasn't the previous mind. Naturally, he could hear some secrets from Luo Wan's words, although she didn't seem to be willing to talk about it. Yes. Luo Wan nodded and helped her to pack up all the things. She showed a gentle smile and said, "In short, you should take good care of yourself. You must be happier than before when you leave this cage. Only in this way can I feel at ease to let you go alone." Luo Wan was a little bit speechless. Chapter 981. Han Zaishi would also come to the airport that day. He clung to her, which was really cute. "You go first, I'll come later." He handed her a limited edition LV bag and said, "This is the big surprise I specially prepared for you. It's an absolute treasure bag. You can open it when you arrive at the hotel in the evening." Han Zaishi said and raised his eyebrows, looking like he was going to make trouble. "Thank you." Luo Qingshun smiled and took the bag. She looked at Luo Wan and said, "Mom, I'll go first." "Well," Luo Wan nodded and reluctantly let go of her hand with the sunglasses. Watching her walking to the security check from afar, Luo Wan had mixed feelings. There was no absolute pleasure in this world. It was a kind of luck to live in the way they liked, whether they were aristocrats or ordinary people. The sky was blue, and the clouds were white. When the plane crossed the straight track, she knew that there would be a new chapter in her life, whether it was her or the original host. She suddenly understood why the system asked her to complete the side mission about Su Xiao, because it was also what the original host wanted to do. As soon as she got off the plane, she suddenly felt a little uncomfortable when walking in the airport. There were so many people in China, and it looked so lively. The traffic should be what a lively city should be like. Luo Wan picked up her suitcase and walked to the hotel nearby. She didn't know that when she just took 2 steps, a young man directly attracted her attention. The young man had a pair of slanted eyebrows, a pair of sharp black eyes, thin and lightly pursed lips, and a well-defined face. He was tall and slender, but not boorish. The collar of the white shirt was slightly open, and the sleeves of the shirt were rolled up to the middle of the arm. It was so beautiful that people couldn't bear to look away. Luo Wan took a few more glances at him. The man put his hands in his pockets and looked away lazily. "Are you kidding me? Why are you so arrogant?" Luo Qingshun rolled her eyes and passed by him. Unexpectedly, the next second, the man suddenly fainted on the ground as if he lost the balance of gravity. Young master, is there a doctor? Is there anyone who can help? Quick, save our young master." The 2 burly bodyguards standing beside him suddenly became at a loss. Luo Qingshun wanted to continue walking forward, but her legs were somewhat uncontrollably stiff in place. The next second, she suddenly turned around and squatted on the ground. "What's the situation? Young master's heart is not good. He has already taken medicine. Call an ambulance." "I've already done so." She squatted down and gently stroked his heart with her hand. His figure was very good. When she touched him, she could feel his firm muscles. When his right hand touched his heart, he could clearly feel that his heartbeat was weak. In an instant, she knelt on the ground, crossed her arms, and performed CPR on him, artificial respiration, although she was disdainful of this kind of handsome guy who seemed to be arrogant to the ends of the earth. But in the face of life, everyone was equal. 30 cardiopulmonary resuscitation, 1 mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and nonstop circulation. Little did she know that when she touched his slightly cold lips again, the other party turned over and directly pressed her to the ground. His deep eyes emitted a dangerous light, and his posture changed instantly, from the scene of artificial respiration to the scene of him on top of her. There were a lot of onlookers around. At this moment, Luo Qingshun only felt that her ears were slightly flushed, and her heart suddenly jumped. Chapter 982. Young Master, you're awake. Young Master, are you all right? The 2 bodyguards came up to him like his henchmen. They bent down and looked at him with concern. Li Nai's slender fingers softly touched his lips as he reprimanded the 2 bodyguards with the aura of a male lead. What are you doing? Letting a female pervert touch this young master. Don't you know that this young master hates physical contact the most? He was so angry. He hated women the most since he was young, but he was the most popular with women. He was the only son of the richest man in a city, the Li Group's Li Zhuyang, so naturally he had been pampered since he was young. Therefore, he had this kind of lawless and arrogant personality. He had a terrifying mind and body contact, but as long as someone touched his body, he would feel uncomfortable. And this person in front of him actually dared to kiss him. This was simply a female pervert. He couldn't take it at all. Sorry, young master. The lackey immediately respectfully bowed. After the young master fainted, we wanted to call an ambulance. But this girl suddenly charged forward. We were worried about the young master's safety. So, Che. Li Nai was instantly filled with rage as he gave a cold snort of disdain. She really is a female pervert. We also think so. The bodyguard nodded with a serious look. Luo Qingshan looked at the 2 in front of her in a daze before her lips curled into a cold smile. Are you 2 acting? Scamming? Acting? What a joke. Is there a problem? Can't you tell the difference between mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and kissing? Li Nai impatiently waved his hand, and the 2 bodyguards came forward to look at her. This young miss, please leave immediately. Our young master doesn't want to see you. MMP. Ding. Ding your head. This treasure doesn't want to hear anything. Shut up for me. Luo Qingshan crossed her arms and looked at Li Nai, who had his hands in his pockets like he had lost his chastity. Is there a problem with your heart? What does it matter to you? Li Nai never thought that Luo Qingshan would ask such a strange question. The moment he turned his eyes slightly, he finally looked into her eyes for the first time. A clear spring, so clear that one could see the bottom. These 8 words were the first impression that appeared to her mind, but because of the previous ones, they had already left a very bad impression. So much so that the moment he saw this face, there was a strange feeling of familiarity that was automatically swept away by his brain. Oh, Luo Qingshan seemed to have suddenly realized something. She nodded her head as if she didn't know what she was doing. Then I would like to ask this so-called young master, because your heart is not good, do you think that the most important organ in the human body is the heart? At this moment, her heart was burning with a raging fire, but she still had to wear a calm smile on her face as she looked at the so-called arrogant young master. He sneered, a look of disdain flashing in his eyes as he said, Idiot, is it because your brain is good? It's clearly the heart, okay? Luo Qingshan casually picked up the Louis Vuitton bag on the ground and shrugged. A person can't live without a heart. Could it be that a person can live without a brain? Li Nai narrowed his eyes as he looked into her eyes. You don't even understand such simple medical knowledge, and you dare say that you gave me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and not a forced kiss. Z. She shook her head as she walked past him with a faint smile. I'll only answer your first question. What? Chapter 983. After saying this, Luo Qingshan didn't look back. Instead, she walked straight in the direction of the hotel and didn't even look back. She was simply an idiot. She went out unluckily and directly met a self-righteous. What young master? Io, was this person too narcissistic, or did his head get hit by a car? It was simply, yes, he really didn't have a brain. After returning to the hotel, Luo Qingxun took a shower and comfortably laid on the bed. She suddenly felt a bit hungry and remembered the limited edition LV bag that Han Zaishi gave her. When she held it in her hand, she felt that it was much lighter than before. She didn't know if it was just her imagination. She opened it and found that it was full of letters and picture albums. The words on the letters were very beautiful, and they were all signed. You from afar? What the hell? Why did Han Zaishi give me this kind of thing? Luo Qingxun rolled her eyes and threw the bag and letters to the side. She picked up her phone and planned to send a WeChat message to Han Zaishi. I thought you brought me something good. What the hell is this? Underscore? Asterisk. Luo Qingxun. While replying to WeChat, she didn't forget to casually flip through a few apps. The original owner liked to use social apps very much. Weibo and WeChat were all available. She opened Weibo and wanted to casually pass the time, but she didn't expect to be shocked by today's hot headlines. Hashtag some girl kissed the capital's aristocratic academies, school hunk at the airport hashtag. There were a bunch of replies, and almost all of them were speaking up for the school hunk. Of course, she could still see a few rational replies after flipping through a few pages. But these rational replies were quickly drowned out. Sure enough, online violence was too scary. For example, little Jasmine, damn, who is this? She's so ugly. Why did she kiss our Major C's school hunk? 1,199 likes. Alif, I want to flesh her. What kind of trash is she? 2,301 likes. Ran is a little fairy. I think this girl is pretty good looking. Also, she might not have kissed him. 18 likes. Shisha replied to Ran is a little fairy. Scram. 456 likes. Shefli replied to Ran is a little fairy. What do you know? Our school hunk is not someone this kind of girl can touch. 558 likes. In the next second, Luo Qingxun directly sat on the soft big bed and angrily threw the phone. What the hell? Who the hell is this person? How dare he bully me? Host, please don't be angry. It's not good for your health. After all, I was about to announce something big. TSK. Even you're feeling indignant for me. Tell me, how can this person not be abused? If you don't abuse me, you won't be called Luo Qingxun. Host, please calm down first before setting up a poison curse. For example, let's take a look at the male lead's favorability towards the original host. What are you looking at? The original host doesn't even know the male lead. So where did the favorability come from? Cough, cough. The male lead's affection for the original host is indeed 0%, but it's different for the host. What was the meaning of this? The male lead's favorability towards the host is minus 20%. Asterisk caret asterisk. Luo Qingxun didn't know whether to curse or not. Her brain spun rapidly, and she immediately came up with an answer after 3 seconds. F asterisk CK. He's the male lead? Yes, host. I'm going to give up on the mission. I'll continue with this mission. Host giving up on the mission will deduct all experience points, and all progress bars will be taken back. All inventory and exchange points will be emptied. So you're saying that if I give up, I'll go to the novice village? Host, you have to try everything. At least they are the same person. Chapter 984. In fact, she didn't really care about the so-called points, the so-called experience points, or the plain reincarnation. After experiencing it for so long, she seemed to have gotten used to it. She was used to shuttling between the chaotic space and the plane of existence. She was used to meeting the man with the same mark again and again. It was ancient and mysterious, confusing people for hundreds of generations. But based on the previous 18 planes, that person used different identities to dote on her. This time she endured. Life couldn't be smooth sailing. Just like doing a mission, there would always be stumbles. Only by learning to endure can one achieve great things. And that's how she convinced herself. Carrot? Ding dong. A WeChat ringtone sounded. She picked up the phone and glanced at it. It was a message from Han Zaishi. When she opened it, her expression became even more doubtful. It's good stuff. It has everything to eat, drink, and play. How is it not good stuff? Han Zaishi, how could it have everything to eat, drink, and play? It was obviously a pile of broken paper. She picked up the phone and took a picture of the things in the bag. and perfunctorily said, "Is this the letter you wrote to me because you were afraid that I would miss you?" Luo Qingshan 0225456699 JPG. Damn. %yen and %yen, what the hell, I didn't put it in for you. Han Zaishi, Luo Qingshan knit her brows. She picked up the limited edition LV bag and flipped it over again. Other than the letters, there was also a large drawing book that was filled with clean sketches one after another. She frowned, and her gaze fell on the lower right corner of the sketches. Nigh. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. The burst of urgent WeChat ringtone didn't interrupt her thoughts. Scenes of what happened at the airport appeared in front of her eyes like a movie clip. Finally, the scene in her mind froze at the place where the two LV bags were. The same big bag, and there were only 10 limited edition bags in the world. This luck, really no one else. Is there anything else besides these? Han Zaishi, hurry up and answer me. I also brought you an action movie. Don't lose it. Han Zaishi chattered a lot in the middle, but she didn't plan to reply to him. It wasn't until the last round that she jumped out of bed. You. We're no longer friends. From now on, we will contact each other in a bottle. Oh no, it was a coincidence card. Luo Qingshan. She turned off her phone and opened the album to search for some useful information. Half an hour later, she had flipped through the entire album. Other than the clean sketches and the handsome front, there was nothing else. But thinking about it, no one would write their phone number in an album. Then all that was left were these letters. She hesitated for a long time whether she should open them or not. On the one hand, letters were like text messages or chat logs. They were considered personal privacy. Not looking was something a civilized and virtuous baby would do. On the other hand, she was still very angry with that arrogantly seen Nai, thinking that it wasn't a big deal for such a brainless person to see his privacy. After all, the LV bag that Han Zaishi gave her should have already been flipped over by Li Sinai. As long as she thought of the action movie that Han Zaishi mentioned on WeChat, she felt a sense of despair. Li Sinai, could it be that the male lead couldn't be gentle? Why did she meet such a strange person who was like a devil? Chapter 985. At the same time, in the Li Manor, Li Sinai was lazily leaning on the sofa, looking at everything in front of him with an evil smile. The more normal ones were candy, spicy strips, jelly, pencils, notebooks, and etc. The more abnormal ones were action movies, and action movies. Cool. His slender fingers softly picked up this film from before the 50s, and he couldn't help laughing as he said to himself, "A female pervert really is a female pervert. Even the things she carries are this open." He narrowed his eyes, and the scene of them at the airport couldn't help appearing in his mind. Also the way she made him speechless with each word. It really was a poisonous tongue. He hadn't seen someone with a more poisonous tongue in a long time. Thinking of this, his lips couldn't help curling into a faint smile as he couldn't help laughing. Ha 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 ha. The two bodyguards around him also laughed. But he immediately said with a serious face, "You two, immediately find out who this girl is and where she's living. Give me all the information you have on her." She took his most important letter and album. If he didn't find her, he would be the head of the city's 4 young masters. Li Sinai. The next morning, Luo Qingshan prepared to head to the school she was going to in China, the Royal Academy. Although she didn't plan on giving up on this mission, she didn't plan on looking for the male lead. After all, enemies didn't meet. This so-called Li Sinai, he should be in the same school as her. Of course, he might be in a school that was against her. The system didn't play according to common sense most of the time. She wasn't certain which one was true, but she didn't care. After all, she would deal with whatever came her way. At worst, she would drown together. With such ambition, she came to the school's academic affairs office. The principal gave a satisfied nod after seeing her letter of recommendation. Although you were born a commoner, your grades are very good. Especially your zither. It's the essence of the country. There were 2 teachers standing at the side. One of them was wearing branded clothes and golden high heels. Her eyes were flying to the sky. The other teacher, who was dressed more simply and wore a pair of black glasses, immediately agreed. "Yes, I also think that she is very outstanding." The principal nodded and continued. "Then, Mr. Gu, I'll leave this student to you. I hope that this year you'll focus on your studies and your talents will be outstanding. F class? Luo Qingqian's first reaction was, why is it class F? Although her identity was fake, her results were real. Could it be that the F class in this school had the best grades? She followed behind teacher Gu silently with a puzzled expression. I know you might have some doubts. Teacher Gu explained, classes A to E of Imperial Capital's aristocratic academy are ranked according to the student's status, which is to say, how noble their status is. Ah, Luo Qingqian was slightly stunned. She pursed her lips and asked, then F class. Chapter 986. Oh, she seemed to carelessly nod her head and said, I know, but you don't have to worry. In fact, this is also good. Teacher Gu had been giving her a heads up along the way. After telling her all the things that she should pay attention to, she concluded by saying, after all, everyone in the class is the same. You won't be bullied by the commoners like before. Teacher Gu roughly explained to her the rules of life in this school. Luo Qingqian could see from her eyes that she wanted to protect every student. That kind of loving eyes couldn't deceive people. It was said that at the beginning, commoners and aristocrats were interspersed in different classes. However, there was a commoner student who couldn't stand the bullying of the aristocrats and suffered from depression. In the end, he jumped from the top floor of the classroom. Although that aristocrat was finally expelled from the school, it was said that he only paid a large sum of money and transferred to another aristocratic school. It didn't affect him at all to continue bullying the weak. In the end, in order to prevent similar things from happening again, the school was divided into classes. The commoners were uniformly placed in the same class, and they were not on the same floor as the aristocrats. The aristocrats' floors were rebuilt. Each building had its own elevator, swimming pool, convenience supermarket, and various entertainment facilities. The row of standalone high-rise buildings at the back were luxurious single Soho for the aristocrats. It was a school that integrated study and entertainment. It was a paradise. Although the exterior of the commoners' teaching building was decorated very gorgeously, the inside was a normal class. The school dormitory was also 4 people to a room. Although she wanted to diss the school's unfair practice, the most important thing right now was not this. But when Luo Qingqian stood on the podium and received everyone's applause, she saw the girl sitting in the corner by the window. She was the only girl who gently clapped her hands, but her eyes were not looking at her. Luo Qingqian classmate, our class now only has 2 seats. You can choose one to sit in. Teacher Gu smiled. Everyone cast envious gazes at her. Everyone thought that she would definitely choose the most beautiful girl in class F, Su Jing. There was no jealousy in their eyes. Most of them were just very envious. Luo Qingqian didn't hate this kind of gaze, even if it was in public. But in the end, Luo Qingqian's footsteps only brushed past Su Jing's desk and finally stopped beside Su Xiaoxiao. Although both of them were surnamed Su, in Luo Qingqian's opinion, Su Xiaoxiao seemed to need her more than Su Jing. When she sat down next to Su Xiaoxiao, the people around her looked at her in disbelief, but they didn't say anything. All right, after welcoming the new students, let's get to the main topic. In the last final exam, our class did get first place again, but our artistic performance was at the bottom again. I'm not asking you to fight for anything, but at least we won't be at the bottom this time. Okay? Teacher Gu, those aristocratic students are rich. They can afford the best equipment. That's right. They can even hire people to write songs and dance. Of course, we're not as good as them. But last time, young Master C's piano performance was really cool. I even recorded a video. TSK, although I like young Master C very much too. But in the eyes of those noble ladies, people like us don't have the right to call him by his name. Chapter 987. Teacher Gu awkwardly cleared her throat. In short, it's fine as long as everyone does their best. Let's begin class. After all, the students in this classroom were all top students, so they could quickly return to their normal state after gossiping. Hello, I'm Luo Qingqian. She lowered her head and looked at Su Xiaoxiao beside her. On the surface, she looked like a very quiet girl. Her skin was fair and clean, and she didn't wear any makeup. She didn't even use toner or cream. so her skin looked a bit dry. Hello. She was a bit surprised before saying in a soft voice with a bit of gentleness, I am Su Xiao Xiao. After that, there was an awkward silence. Since it was class, Luo Qinshan couldn't say anything since teacher Gu had already looked at her. Since she came to F class, she should be low-key, low-key, low-key. When the bell rang, Luo Qinshan wanted to find something to talk about with Su Xiao Xiao. Su Xiao Xiao gave her a piece of white paper that had a drawing of Luo Qinshan standing on the podium on it. The moon-white sweater, the light pink plaid skirt, and the slightly curly short hair. She looked very youthful. For me, she pursed her lips, looking a bit surprised. During class, she had been distracted most of the time. After all, that annoying Sinai would appear in her mind from time to time, so she didn't pay attention to what Su Xiao Xiao was doing. She never thought that she would make such a cute drawing in a single class, even adding some simple colors. Su Xiao Xiao revealed an embarrassed smile. Welcome. She didn't say much, but Luo Qinshan could feel the sincerity in her words. Thank you, she said with a soft laugh. It's really cute. It's much better than someone's sketch. Luo Qinshan shook her head. No, it's nothing. Ding-ling. When she was about to say something, there was a series of text messages that came from her phone. Who is this old-fashioned these days? Not using WeChat and sending text messages. She took out her phone with a dissatisfied look. There were 3 messages in her inbox, each from an unknown number. Female pervert. Don't you know you took the wrong bag? Sinai, huh? Right, the things in your pirated LV really open my eyes. Sinai, I know you're in the capital. Hurry up and come a Class A and give me my things. Otherwise, don't blame me for revealing it to the world. Oh, Sinai *CK. MMP. %yen #yen %. Luo Qinshan couldn't help but scold him in her heart. She also scolded Han Zaishi once again. Then, she angrily typed a few lines of words on the phone screen. Her strength was so strong that the surrounding students looked at her strangely. Announce it, announce it. If you have the ability, then announce it. You're talking as if I don't have anything in my hands. Luo Qinshan, what kind of letter is that? Who are you from afar? Who do you think will be more interesting if both of us announce each other's items at the same time? Luo Qinshan, ****. Luo Qinshan. Third, she was obviously trying to show off her anger and make a fortune. After all, she couldn't lose to someone she knew. The other side had sent 3 messages. It wouldn't be right if she didn't know how to send 3. In the next second, he received another message. All right, stupid female pervert. We'll settle this in the southern field in 10 minutes. Sinai, come. Who's afraid of who? Just bring your 2 bodyguards. It's my loss if I'm scared. Luo Qinshan.